Folks, we're going to get started. Welcome to tonight's board meeting. We're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. We'll do the pledge again after our public hearing in a moment of silence after that. At this time, I'd like to have a motion to open the public hearing to take public comment for proposed law, local law number 5. Motion for that, please. Second? Second. Thank you. At this time, is there anybody from the public who would like to make any comments about local law, proposed local law number 5, which, if you remember, is addressing some parking issues on John Street, Johnson Street, and specifically on Bridge Street, and a little bit on East Barrett Street. West Barrett Street. Basically, all the provisions of the law are to help our citizens and businesses with parking arrangements, type of thing. Okay, no public comment. Thank you. Can I have a motion to end the public hearing? Thank you. Second? Second. Thank you very much. At this time, we will open I'm going to call the regular meeting open. Town Clerk Greer, would you please take roll call?
Michael Farr.
Here.
Churchill.
Here.
Dana Lapis.
Here.
John Dyson. Here. Doug Avery. Here.
Thank you. Would you please stand for the pledge and a moment of silence? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. We have a couple of bids to open. One is for rental of heavy equipment. That's the only one. We have one bid for the renting of rental equipment, and I am open. Maybe.
I forgot to bring it over.
I remember when I was a spectator out there, I would say to myself, why don't they open the stupid things ahead of time? But anyway, we have one bid, and that bid is from Seneca Pipe and Paving. And I have open bids for tree removal. I have two bids, One is from Cranebrook. And the second one is from Lumber Mac. Okay. And then Nick, we have someplace down here later on that we're going to appoint these, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, you want to take a look at that one for me? Okay. We're doing a little moving around here from the tentative agenda, so we're going to move up to a resolution to create a new position of duty statement. So I have a resolution here, whereas the police chief is requesting to reassign a current police officer into a vacant supervisory position created by an on-job injury, whereas the Seneca County Personnel Department indicated that a position duty statement would need to be approved by the town board to create an additional police sergeant position with the Seneca County Civil Service Commission, whereas the new duty statement will allow the department to promote a current police officer from the Seneca Falls Police Department to fill the vacancy shift. Therefore, be it resolved, the town board accept one additional Seneca County Civil Service Commission new position duty statement for police sergeant. Can I have a second for that, please?
Second.
Discussion. Chief has explained this to everyone, so if there's no further discussion, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Carried. Thank you. With that, I have a resolution whereas the Seneca Falls Police Department is in need to fill a vacant supervisory position with a current full-time police officer and begin recruiting to appropriate backfill the now vacant police officer position created by this promotion. Whereas it's a recommendation of the police chief and the public safety committee to backfill these positions with qualified candidates. Whereas Officer Thomas Clear is currently on an active Seneca County Civil Service list for police sergeant. Officer Clear has been in an acting sergeant role as an officer in charge for the past 13 months and has proven himself to be qualified to fill this vacancy. Therefore, be it resolved that the town board approve promoting Officer Thomas Clear to police sergeant and begin to advertise to backfill the vacant police officer position created by the promotion. Can I have a second for that?
Second.
Discussion. I just, first of all, would like to extend my congratulations if we get a positive vote. Also, I will emphasize to the board and encourage the board, the backfill is necessary. I still want to look at, as we create vacancies, looking at the whole picture and see if we have a discussion with the department head. In this particular case, have a discussion with the police chief. What if we don't fill that position? What happens? And it's just a matter of, I think we have to do due diligence to at least have the discussion if we're looking to reduce spending over time. So, just my 2 cents on the discussion first. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? So carried. Thank you. Congratulations, Chief, you're up.
Tom?
Cindy? For those of you who don't know, this is now Sergeant Tom Clear. Congratulations, Tom. This is his wife, Cindy, who will present the badge and pin the badge, hopefully with no bloodshed, on Tom. They're joined by their 2 lovely kids and their mom and dad. As many of you know, Under Sheriff John Clear is Tom's dad for the Seneca County Sheriff's Department.
You're gonna pose for a picture with the family, or?
Yeah, please. We have one of just Tom and I. Tim, you want to come on up if you could, or Chris? Yeah, please.
Okay. How do you do? Pay attention. You want to take green pen?
Tom's family answer.
Dad, you can come up under sheriff. You got a zoom lens in there, or what? It's the last picture in the family album, I hope, all right?
Let's go get my camera so I can do
Steve's doing all.
That's what Photoshop's for.
We'll send them to you.
There we go.
All right.
There we go.
Okay, at this time, we're going to hear a brief presentation. We've been talking about the town doing a reevaluation of our property. Our town assessor, Devin Wald, and myself met with the company, John Kukowski and his partner, about 3 weeks ago, and we had a nice 2-hour meeting talking about the ins and outs and this and that. I asked John to come tonight to kind of give us a brief overview, but at some point, the town board, you're going to have to make a decision if you want to go forward with this. If you want to go forward with it, you want to start the process in 2021, you want to wait to 2022, but as you hear the presentation, you're going to hear a lot of reasons why we should be seriously thinking about the re-eval. So John, it's all yours.
All right. Where are we going to be presenting? Should we just up here?
That's fine, yeah. Do we have a microphone up there?
No, we don't need the microphone.
You want this, John?
No, we don't need the microphone. Thank you very much for inviting us, and I'll tell you, it was very nice to wind up seeing the whole ceremony with the chief of police and stuff. That was great. It was something I don't normally get a chance to see, and I really liked it. So I thought it was very touching, and it's great. Hopefully we won't have to speed going out of town or anything and see these guys again. But no, it really was very nice. My partner is Joe Eminger, and Joe Eminger and we own ENPM appraisal company and the municipal reassessment company. So today we're going to keep our presentation pretty short. I'm going to talk for 5 minutes. Joe's going to start out talking for 5 minutes about why a reassessment project should be done, and we still have time to wind up doing it this year, although time is running out relatively shortly because it pretty much takes a good portion of a year to wind up doing a project like this. So we do have some handouts that we gave to the board members. If anybody else would like them, I'm sure that they can get provided to the rest of the public. But I'll let Joe take it from here about the projects.
Thank you, John. Briefly, just so that the town board doesn't get scared, okay, what I'm giving you here is a presentation that usually takes about an hour, where, as John alluded to, we're just going to be doing this in 5-10 minutes. This could be a very brief introduction here to the project if the town board decides to do anything. Okay, first and foremost, your town is no different really than most communities in New York State. Okay, so there are inequities in the role the further you get out from a reassessment project. The last time you were done was roughly 4 or 5 years ago, with my understanding. Okay, so the further you get away from the last time you went through a townwide revaluation, your values, there are inequities in the role. And why is that? One of the reasons being that properties appreciate or depreciate at different values, different parts of the municipality. Okay, your equalization rate now is 85%. What's that saying was 4 or 5 years ago it was at 100%. Okay, the 85%, it's an inverse ratio. That's saying that property values have actually gone up over the last 4 or 5 years, and it's increasing property values. The bad part is that 85% equalization rate gets applied to every property in the town, whether you live in the best section of town or the worst section of town. You live next to an industrial plant or you live in one of the nicer areas, okay? So that creates inequities. It's not fair to everybody. So the goal of the project is to create fair and equitable assessments. plain and simple, okay? And how do we go about doing that? We go about doing that by inspecting all the properties in the town, okay? Making sure that those properties, the inventory is accurate, okay? One of the things we've come across as we've done this, we've been doing this now for 15, 16 years, one of the things we've come across very frequently in municipalities is that the inventory is incorrect. Okay, so we want to make sure that the inventory is correct. Good information in to the valuation will give better evaluations out. Okay, so we ask the public to participate in the project. We want you to become very familiar with it. The project would start, okay, it usually would start over the summer, whether it be this year or next year, start over the summer. The notices go out, I don't even know, notices will go out in March of whatever year you decide to do it. Grievance Day is held every May in the municipality, okay? And we're just trying to make sure what we're doing, okay? So, some of the benefits that you get back real quick, okay, from the town board standpoint, when you have reassessment projects, one of the things you benefit by it is if you're bonding any projects, your bonding rating agency likes to see that you're keeping your valuations up to date. So that's very important, okay? Taxes may or may not go up. Everybody thinks that a reassessment project will raise property taxes. The town board understands it. Probably most of you understand it because you've taken the time to come to municipal meetings, is that there's a tax cap in New York State. Okay, and that limits the amount of spending that municipal governments and school districts that they can do. So you know, whether it be 2% or less, you know, that's the general rule for the tax cap. The spending is limited. So your assessments can go up when you do a reassessment project. The rule is third go up, a third go down, and a third will stay the same. Okay, well there are three things that can, I'm going to get into two things that can happen, and I'm going to turn it over to John. Two things can happen. One is your assessment will go up, and your taxes will go down. Okay? People find it hard to believe that your assessment's going to go up and your taxes will go down. It will happen in Seneca Falls to a lot of people if you go forward with the project. The other example is your assessment can go up, and your assessment will assessment goes up, and your taxes will stay the same. That's going to happen to people here in Seneca Falls, and I get into that in the presentation. And if we're successful in doing this project, I'll spend 15 minutes going into why. Okay, I can't do that tonight. Okay, and the third example is, which I don't think will happen in Seneca Falls, is really what I call the Armageddon, and that's where your assessment goes down and your taxes go up, okay? There's a reason why that in all likelihood won't happen, and it has to do with taxable valuation and the times that we find ourselves in. So the good news is that we have a lot of experience doing projects in similar communities in central, western New York, and even in Delaware County, and out there that way towards Binghamton, Oneonta. And the sky doesn't fall when we do these projects. Okay, most of the time we bring the people in, they understand the process, and we're very open. It's, you know, the town board, an open process, the public open process. We, the assessor, we want to communicate with everybody. So we put a phone number out to the public. They can call us not 24/7, but they can call us. They can call us anytime, 5 days a week, and we'll answer the questions. No question, there's no dumb questions. So I'm going to turn it over to John, and you can wrap it up.
Sure. So quickly, what Joe explained was that the state has come in and given given Seneca Falls an equalization rate of 85%. And what that means is that they have looked at the sales that have taken place in this town, and they've said that, and they've looked at the assessment, and they've compared the two. And when they compare the two, they come to the conclusion that properties are increasing at approximately 15%. Now that, like as Joe mentioned, that's applied across the board. The problem with that is your house, your particular property may not have gone up. Commercial properties may have gone down. Other properties may have, again, I don't know what's exactly happening in your community right now, but I see it in other communities. So the scenario is that what that equalization rate is telling the municipality is that there is an inequity in the role. An reassessment project is all about equity. It's ultimately valuing the property, assessing the property at what the property would sell for. And that's what our job is. Our job, no one from the town has come up to us and said, you know, we have to get values up or anything like that. They basically sat back and come up to us and said, our equalization rate is falling, therefore we need to do we need to do a project in order for it to be fair to everybody in the town. So that's our job. We don't know anybody in the town, pretty much. You know, the issue here is that we do these projects across the entire state, as Joe mentioned. And what we do is we drive around the town, we take pictures from the right of way. We don't go on properties unless we're invited to the properties to see the insides of the properties. We wind up comparing the assessment records to the properties, in other words, property cards to the properties. We see if there's been any additions, any changes, if the property's nicer than what it was the last time a reassessment project was done, or so on. And then we wind up running the valuations. The valuations are based upon whether other properties are selling for in your neighborhood and in your town. So again, we break things down into different neighborhoods. We wind up looking at the values of all the properties. So ultimately, that's our job. At the end of the project, after we get done accumulating all the properties, looking at all the properties, we send out a copy of our change notices to the people, to everyone in the town, every business in the town. From there, they have a chance to meet with us directly, one-on-one, and talk to us about where we may have made a mistake. And we will make mistakes. We try to get them all right. We never get them all right. We try to get them perfect. We never get them perfect. You know your properties better than we do. People will come up to us and say, you saw my property from the outside, you haven't seen my property from the inside. Those are the types of comments that we see or hear. People give us information and we make changes if they're necessary. People also have other opportunities, your Board of Assessment review and SCAR hearings, which we'll go into if we, in a public meeting if the project goes forward. But ultimately, this is what we do, and it's all about equity, it's all about being fair. You heard Joe say that there's a tax cap. We will probably find some inventory out there we did a municipality that there were houses that were built in the community that never made it to the assessment roll. So in essence, when those properties were put onto the assessment roll, ultimately it spread the burden of the tax base throughout. So it's all about fairness, it's all about equity, and and I really think we pretty well covered it, Joe.
One last thing, okay, just remember this is for the town board's information and for the public's information, okay? This is a valuation project, not a taxation project. Our firm, the assessor's charge is to put market value opinions, estimates on the property values. If you have a problem with your assessments, you can talk to us if we're successful, or to the assessor. If you have, nothing offense to the town board, if you have an offense, if you have an issue with your taxes, that's a town board issue. That's not the assessor's issue, okay? So we're here to talk about, we're here to address your valuation of your homes. So at this point, we'll open up to any questions from the town board or the public. I know it was very brief, but...
yeah, thank you, Joe and John. This is just a really brief discussion. If the town board decides to move forward, then there would be an initial kickoff presentation, more like a public meeting type of thing to kick off the program. Definitely.
Would you please define neighborhood to the crowd so that they understand it's not their street?
Right. A neighborhood is a grouping of houses that have similar attributes. When someone is shopping for a home, they would be looking at properties in that same typical neighborhood. We'd be looking at same styles of neighborhood. These are the things, when we look at your houses, we look at them we are appraisers. We look at them just the way appraisers appraise properties for the banks and such. We sit back and we wind up looking at them saying, what would the typical purchaser pay for this property? And so we're only going to be using comparable properties from similar neighborhoods. That's a group of streets that the properties are similar to yours. Now, I know that there may be variations of styles, so we'll be selecting styles that are similar to yours also.
That's on the residential parcels. On the commercial parcels, industrial parcels, obviously, we probably have to go outside the town and get maybe other industrial properties, commercial properties in the region that if so. There just aren't the amount of industrial commercial properties that there are residential homes. And every property will be valued, typically valued to 4 or 5 homes in the area. So we're just not picking up one sale. We're looking at 5 sales of similar style homes, similar vintage homes, and we do our commuter modeling, and we arrive at a value. Then we go out into the field and we field review those values that we have, and then we have informal hearings at the end. That's where you can come in after you get your notice. We review those with you if you have questions, and if we can adjust your assessment, we'll adjust your assessment downward, and if we don't, we can still go, as John alluded to, the Board of Assessment Review, which is held in May every year. So you have numerous opportunities that we would get into if we're chosen, and we go through everything in a very complete manner. You'll understand what you're going to be getting in the mail at some time in the future.
Other questions?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, as far as timeline, because you said tax notices go out in March, and then of course there's the assessment, the challenge part in May. If we started it this year and scraped up money to pay for part of it this year, can it be done by next March? Or are we, no matter what, we're looking at 23?
No, you want to answer?
Go ahead. I'm under the understanding, and in the last conversation that Joe and I had, is that if we get approval to wind up doing it relatively soon, we could finish the project, so it will wind up being a 2022 project, meaning that the numbers that we place on the properties and go through the process will not be on this year's tax roll, but will wind up being on the following tax year's roll. In fact, actually it's split over the following year and a half because you get 2 tax bills.
So yeah, John alluded to time is pretty important. You got to make decisions sooner rather than later if you're going to do it next year. Okay, so
So I'm clear, so if I understand Councilman Avery's question. So if the board move forward at our June meeting and everything has to be completed by March of 2022 to take effect on the payroll for 2022 for the taxes?
it would go into effect the first year. School tax bill is due in September.
Okay.
Okay, so that would be the first tax bill that would be applied to. It would be the school tax 2022 tax bill. Your town and county bill is due January 1st. January 1st, that would fall into it there. Okay, for the board standpoint, I don't want to get into this too much, but it's our proposals are generally municipal budget friendly. We carry the payments over 3 years. Okay, so if we start it this year, there'll be payments in 2021. There'll be payments in 2022, and there's a retainage figure that is kept till the end to make sure that we do the project right, that you pay in 2023, and it's not until March of 2023 after you collect the tax dollars for that. So we try to be as municipally friendly as we can be.
And there may be either state money still available. The money does run out after a period of time, and it's not a lot to the project. But
Not a lot, but it's a little bit. I sent the board members their proposal. Just for the public's sake, this is not a inexpensive ordeal. It's pricey, okay? And there's a range of about $30 to $70 per household, depending on what option we go in. So if this firm did the complete re-eval, that's the highest end, if they did it all. And then if our assessor and we did some contract with a couple of people, that would be a less rate per and it's by parcel. So we have about $4,000, or excuse me, 4,000 parcels in Seneca Falls. Worst case scenario, you're looking at close to 200,000 if they completed the whole work themselves. And best case scenario would be a lesser price with employing Deb and some other people with some training from these folks. So it's not cheap. But I think if you look at it, it's something that really needs to be done, especially if Deb does a great job of trying to match up selling prices and what they're assessed for. She does a great job of doing that. and houses are going for anywhere from $50,000 to $70,000 more than what they're assessed for. And I mentioned this before, there's a reason why that happens. Reason number one, the zoning office doesn't catch up with the assessor's office. Reason number two, people do work on their properties and don't get the proper permits, even though they're supposed to have permits for X, Y, and Z. And therefore, they put in $50,000 worth of improvements in their property, and we have no idea, okay? And there's a law in New York State, it's basically a good neighbor law. So if I sell my house for $200,000 and it's assessed for $100,000, Debbie can't go around back and assess me for $200,000. That can't happen.
Unless there's an improvement.
Pardon?
Unless there's an improvement. Improvements follow the property.
I'm just talking about a plain sale of a house.
Welcome, strange.
Right. No.
And on the other hand, if your house is overassessed, the residents can come in every year and challenge your assessment. So if you bought your house for less than what it's assessed for, you can challenge your assessment. And that creates, again, some of the inequities, because the people who pay more are not paying their fair share. The people who have paid less, can make sure they get their fair share. And then on the rest of the town, for all those people who are underassessed, the rest of the town is subsidizing their taxes.
So I'd like the board between now and in 3 weeks from now to look at the proposal. If you have any questions, you can please send them to me via email, and I would include everybody. I will funnel them off to be answered, but I'd like to have it on the agenda for June, one way or another, if we're going to go forward with it or we're not going to go forward with it.
I think the question is going to be at what level,
Correct.
and I don't know how we're going to.
Well, I think Deb and I and John have talked, and I'll get that to you exactly once I nail that down. But it would be the lesser of the two evils, I guess the way to say it. It would be the less expensive way. Debbie would do input, but I mean, Debbie can't be out there every single day, 8 hours a day either. But we can, I'll work on a number for you as quickly as possible to give you kind of an idea of where that's at.
Isn't there something that would have to go out to bid?
Professional service, don't have to. There's not a lot of firms out there that I know of. This firm has been recommended to me by different people in the business. It's not a professional service. Pardon?
I did reach out to several. I emailed, I investigated one other. There was 5 in total. 3 of the other companies or people that help on the side to do these, help the assessor for lesser money to prepare for these guys to come in, have passed away. And the other guy, the Google remarks, the reviews were terrible, and I didn't want to get involved with something like that. And with some other local experienced assessors that used to work in this building, or our building, they all use this company also. So it's important to me to do it once and do it right and have everybody fair and happy.
Okay, gentlemen.
Thank you. If you don't mind, I'll leave you my card. If you have any questions, any of you have any questions, feel free to call me.
Thank you.
Okay, I should give you John's card.
No,
but I won't.
Thanks, Joe.
And I have a couple extra of those handouts, if you don't mind. I'll just leave them on the table if anybody wants to grab them from the phone.
Thanks, John.
Thank you very much. Thanks everyone for your time.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Safe trip, Ed. Nice to meet
Okay,
you.
I have a couple of announcements just for FYIs for folks. Hopefully around the 1st of June, you're going to be seeing the graduating class of Minders pictures up on Fall Street, similar to what happened last year. The senior class will be doing a similar thing to recognize our seniors graduating from Minders Academy, so keep an eye on that. Just remind you about Code Red. If you haven't signed up yet, please do so. It's a great messaging service, but obviously we need people to spend 3 minutes and get themselves registered so you can get the messages. There's, if you remember the Koch building and a lot of things going on there, and a company had a proposal to purchase the Koch building called home leasing. It was contingent on some federal and state funding. The home leasing manager contacted me last week and said a large portion of their financing has been approved. So they're working on a closing date with the owner, Peter Koch. So that project appears to be moving forward at some point. And then the last thing I want to announce is that I have formulated a budget committee a while back in February, and this budget committee basically was born out of the fact of last year's budget process and you know, how things kind of get jammed up real quick, and we got to get a public meeting in, you got to get a tentative budget in, and then an adopted budget. So the idea was to start the process much earlier. Also, the major goal of this budget committee is to remove the dependency of the landfill revenue on the budget of Seneca Falls, okay? And that takes time. And as of right now, you have local law 3 that the landfill is slated to close in 2025. It seems like a long time, but it's a short window if the town is actually going to get themselves ready financially to do that. Okay, and that means reduce spending or increase taxes, if that's the place going to be. So we're working on a combination of that with this budget committee. So I'd like to publicly thank tonight Susan Porter, who's in the back over there, and Brad Jones up here. Both Susan and Brad, myself, and Bev Warfel, our principal account clerk, have met 8-9 times working on this and educating Brad and Susan and so forth. We met with the town council people individually, so most of the town council. Our next meeting will be meeting with the department heads to give them an idea of what this committee is working on. And then my goal here, hopefully in another month, would be to have a special board meeting with all board members and trying to get a direction of where you want to go, type of thing. So I just want to let everybody know that's been going on, and I want to publicly thank Susan and Brad for. Good afternoon.
Hello.
How are you?
Good.
Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Okay, we have 2 petitioners. Mr. Kelsey, Mr. Kelsey, would you come up here to the podium, please? Doug, that's not working?
No. Is yours? No, I don't think the system is on.
Mr. Kelsey, again, I'd like all speakers to be respectful of our time limits. Please identify yourself and...
Okay, I'm Paul Kelsey. There was no time limit on the last people who spoke.
Pardon me?
There was no time limit on the last people who spoke.
It's always been 3 minutes.
Okay, I'll try to hurry it up.
I just ask you to be respectful of that time limit.
Okay, I'll try to hurry it up.
Thank you.
Okay, you just mentioned about the dumping clothes. They dumping clothes. The DEC is not even looking for a place to dump. And another thing is, figure out manifest destiny. You know what that is? Right to the many, well, right to the few. And that's what Google told me, that they could take my house. So, that dump being closed in 25 is a joke. Now I tell you a story. I worked at Google for 47 years. Master machinist. The only time I left Google's was I was drafted in the Army to go fight the Allies. All right? Now, I'm going to tell you this story. We had a guy named Tommy Evans, head of all engineering. He came down with the pit plan. Anybody remember the pit plan? Well, pit is practically impossible times. But he told us, we're going to take the bad jobs and raise them up. And the good jobs we're going to cut. Well, you know what he did? Same way you do with the assessment. He cut the hell out of the good job. And the bad job, when I went to approach him, says, Christ and the devil couldn't put that job together in this amount of time. Oh, we ain't touching that job. You'll eat it. So that's what you get when you start saying, well, all you people, we're going to be fair about the assessment. There was never anything fair about the assessment. If I remember correctly, the last person who did the assessment snuck out of town because they were tar and feather. Now, that could be a story or whatnot, I don't know if it's true or not, but there was no assessment last time. Okay, another thing. We went from 3% to 9%, and every year I ask the same question except for last year because of COVID. Where did the money go? You got it from the dump, and we did put in a sewer line, but you still kept it at 9%. And every time I've asked that question, you go, well, this and that, and this and that. Well, that's all I got, was this and that. Nobody's ever told me.
I can't tell you exactly, but I can tell you what
You weren't even here at the time.
I understand that, but I just want to make sure you're getting the answers, okay? We went from 6% a few years back.
We went from 3 to 9.
Okay, we won't argue over percent. Anyway, the difference in percentage when the landfill money was finally provided, because there were some issues, that money went into capital improvement accounts and reserves for capital improvement projects. So it's been used and it's being used. So go ahead.
Okay, so.
Not this and that.
All right, well, you're using the money.
And my salary too. Don't forget my salary.
I don't care about your salary. The reason why you guys are up on the board is not to increase taxes, it's to decrease taxes. That's what you're up there for. You're not up there to say, well, we need a new fire truck. That ain't your job. Your job is, we gotta decrease the taxes. And that's the way I look at it. I might be wrong, but that's the way I look at it.
Okay.
How am I doing for time?
You're up. Thank you very much. Appreciate your comments. Our second petitioner is Mr. Frank Seneca. Mr. Seneca, I ask you to respect the time limits, please.
Well, I'm not going to be able to do that.
Beg your pardon?
Respect my Well, first of all, I just want to say thank you for letting me speak, and I don't represent anybody except me. No affiliation with anybody, no political party, nothing like that. This is just me as a common citizen and just the knowledge that I've picked up through the years working. So I believe the town should be given the landfill the permit. With the permit in the landfill's hands, the town has more leverage over the landfill. When you give them the permit, you know without a doubt, they know the town code, the host agreement, the language in the host agreement, and whatever other laws they must comply with. They have been operating without a permit for 485 days. Without the permit, I believe your ability to enforce requirements set by the town having less meaning. You also have a stronger position to sit down and negotiate any remedies to the issues the board may see as problems. Holding back on the permit is not hurting the landfill. They operate each day. Those calling for odor control. An odor is caused by one or more volatile chemical compounds that are generally found in low concentrations that human and animals can perceive with their sense of smell. An odor is also called a scent or a smell, which can be referred to either as pleasant or unpleasant odor. Generally, hydrogen sulfide, H2CO2, is what you smell attaching itself to methane gas. If you grant the permit, you could negotiate or at least talk, having a stronger position, knowing that they must comply with the permit. What can be done to remedy the situation, certainly considering the cost to the landfill. Seeing there's no specific amount the town is guaranteed each year from the landfill, the town could propose to the landfill to reduce the amount in any one year by $250,000 to get additional odor control procedures, with the landfill contributing the same amount. So that would give you $500,000 extra dollars for odor control. There are websites out there that do supply odor control substances. Maybe changing the current provider of the odor control spray to a more pleasant odor, such as Glade or Febreze, could also help. Sometimes when two entities are at odds, someone needs to make the first move to sound the deadlock and get things moving in the right direction. Making the first move can place you in a position of strength instead of weakness. The landfill knows that there are odors coming from their work area. They are not foolish to say, no, there are never odors coming from that location. They certainly want to have no odors too, to keep it at a minimum. It is everybody's best interest to take care of the odor issue. Reporting of odor seems to be an issue at hand. Can the call line also ring into town offices to verify there are concerns and not all the calls are being answered? Then the call report can be compared to the one generated by the landfill. If the person from the landfill reporting to calls of odor negotiate with the landfill that person spent at least a minimum of 5 minutes on the site and document the report. So when the person goes out, they just don't do a drive-by by rolling down the window. They get out of the vehicle, stand there for 5 minutes and see if they smell the odor. I've heard that as a problem a number of times here. We have no procedure that we can use to confront the landfill on these issues. For instance, a system like the chief of police went over when he did his presentation, employees needing disciplinary action. An example would be concerning smell. 7 calls in a month, have a meeting on why and the date's gone over with a meeting with the landfill. 8 to 15 calls in a month, a meeting on what remedies have been taken since the last meeting with this call volume and where they were implemented. 16 to 25 calls, need for alarm. This says that there is a serious problem and a meeting needs to be called in 48 hours to have an explanation of the rise in call volume and what caused the increase. 25 to 35 calls in a month. Now some action by this board is necessary, such as imposing a fine for each day over 30 calls in the month and $1,000 per call per day over 30. Anything, because right now in your town code, you can only impose a $500 fine. Once, by the way, too. Oh, so any call, so any call, anything over 35 calls for 3 continuous months, you would revoke the permit for the period of 1 week to get the landfill back on track for odor. The best example I can give you is a state-issued hunting and fishing license. Once the license is issued to a person, you as a person are responsible to obey all the regulations for hunting and fishing, and it is your responsibility to know the proper seasons for hunting and fishing. If you violate this regulation, you can be arrested, subject to fines, or loss of license. Certainly the landfill knows the laws and regulations imposed on them by the permit. It's an official when you get the permit. Now you can start to solve the odor problem at the landfill. In the future, we still have 57 months to go with the host agreement. Another issue is the derogatory name of dump. I heard that tonight. This is a landfill and should be addressed in that manner. Using the word dump, I believe, is disrespectful to the employees working there. Another thing I want everybody to know, I care about children in this community, and I certainly do not want them to be exposed to dangerous situations, but using them to cause hysteria or as pawns for odor from the landfill, I think is a terrible thing. So those who use this tactic, I say it's about as low as you can go. I notice those using this tactic never seem to mention adults that are working in those same locations. Stop using the health of children as a reason to close the landfill and start concentrating on how to work with the landfill executives to minimize the odors for the next 57 months. Also begin working on various costs. Please begin working on the various costs to the town prior to the 56th month. As citizens, we need to know the implications of the landfill closing sooner than later as it relates to removal of trash from our community and the cost of this removal. What are the pros and cons of not issuing the permit? That is a question I would like to present to the public at this next meeting by the board. So I'd like the board for the next meeting in June to come up with what are the pros and cons for not issuing the permit. I've only got one more page.
One more what?
This is just this one page.
You're not being respectful of our time like this.
Right. If this is the final act of defiance by the board not issuing permit, maybe it's like a mouse standing on its hind legs just before the cat eats it. This is not meant to be a threat, but look at what this is what the future may hold. The landfill is a multi-million-dollar business, and they're not going away without a fight. You as a board do have the right to pass local laws under Article 4 of the New York State Constitution, but there is one little sentence in that article that states, those laws must not be inconsistent with the Constitution. I believe local law 3 is inconsistent with Article 1 of the state constitution. And that little sentence, my friend, is going to cost the town lots of money. My last example is in 1980, the Cuban nation filed a lease penance against all the property owners in the 64,000-acre land claim, which basically stated that everyone was a squatter on the Indian land claim, and I was a squatter too, I lived in that. So the county started out defending the citizens impacted by the suit, but could not sustain the expense, and the state came in and took over the cost. The issue has now been in the courts 41 years. No closure in sight yet. So if the legal team for the Cuban nation and the legal team defending the county have prolonged this for 41 years, spending millions of dollars, don't think the landfill legal team can prolong this issue for 14 years or more, costing the taxpayers of Seneca Falls hundreds of thousands of dollars or more. If you don't see this coming, then you better take a good look. Thank you for your time. Please consider these remarks in the executive session, and I hopefully I didn't say anything derogatory.
Thank you, sir.
Give it to you.
Don't give it to me. Give it to the town clerk. I can't even make copies. I would run out of copier paper. Okay, privilege of the floor. Great. Have a motion to approve the minutes of...
Q1 check, 627,000. COVID's been a little low. Thank you.
This
COVID's been a little rough, but
this quarter one.
yeah, that's quarter 1.
Great. Thanks, all.
Yeah, we're still dealing with COVID, we're still dealing with reduced volumes, but all in all, a pretty good quarter. So, thank you.
Thank you, Cal.
627 and change. 627,000 plus or minus.
I'll tell you that. $627,022.65.
Thank you, Cal. Can I have a motion to approve the regular town board meeting of April 6, 2021, please? Thank you. Second? Any discussion, corrections? All in favor of accepting the minutes, please say aye. Aye. Thank you. I can make a motion to accept the dog control officer's report for the month of April. Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Have a motion to accept the zoning officer's report for the month of April. Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Any discussion on this? Been a busy month.
It sure has. We have over 100 permits that we issued.
Tis it seems, good thing you're the assistant zoning officer, huh? Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Councilman Dyson?
I make a motion to accept the minutes for the rec center, please.
Second, Jan. Missy, thank you. This is Missy's first monthly report.
Thank you, Missy.
Check for typos, I only found a couple, so I'll speak with you afterwards. But, Missy, anything to add here?
We just have a couple events happening in the next month or so. If do I discuss those now? I think.
A couple of what, Missy?
A couple events, special events. We have Canal Side Skate Jam.
All right, when we get
Is that later?
we'll
Okay,
come
good.
back to that with the special events
Okay.
under the agenda.
All right.
That's good. Things
all.
are changing a little bit, okay?
Okay.
And we'll also talk to you in the committee about Vince's Park when we get to that in the
Okay.
agenda as well.
All right.
Okay? So Missy, I think after your first month or so, Missy and I communicate a lot, and she's doing a great job, and I want to thank her for being on board.
Thank you.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Thank you. Councilman Avery?
I move that we accept the Monthly report of Highway Department as presented.
Second? Jim, anything to add?
Just that May 24th is our brush and leaf pickup. So I gotta be out there for that one-day event.
And we'll put that out as a message in code red. I'm going to be testing your skills as a user to put that out, okay?
Test all you want, Mike.
Kyle, I'm sorry, Jim, I think Kyle's got something to add.
No, go ahead. That's it.
Okay.
Just, the old town, they're already putting their greenways out, so if you could code red that sooner than later, that day's coming up. 'Cause
Okay.
we've been picking it up, but not really,
Okay.
not supposed to do
I can do
that.
that.
Thank you.
And next week, we're gonna start blacktop. We got a couple roads. We're gonna be blacktopping King Road on Monday and Tuesday, and Center Street and Canal Street from, we're gonna be doing that on Wednesday and Thursday of next week, just so people know.
Okay. Mr. Seneca.
I'd just like to ask Jim a question. Jim, picking up brush, right?
Yep.
How big a piece, if I got some brush, what size do you want it?
Anywhere from 4 to 6 feet.
4 feet?
4 to 6 feet, yes.
Oh, all right, thanks.
Okay, any other discussion or questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Councilman Churchill?
Yes, I move we accept the assessment report as presented.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. Deb, anything to add to the report? Okay. And as I said earlier, Deb and I will get together and we'll try to pinpoint the best we can a strong guesstimate of estimate of what that reeval will look like per parcel, and I'll get that to you as soon as we possibly can. Okay. Yes.
Deb, what's the explanation for the Seneca Net pilot?
We were looking, Lisa and I updated our pilot book to make sure the terms always have to start on a March 1st date for the role. And it was such a mess that the only thing we're missing is the Seneca Net pilot, and we can't find it anywhere until I found a book today with an old one in it, but it's not the updated one that we're still giving a discount pilot on. And it's a town pilot. It was done in-house. It wasn't done through the IDA. So I still need some information. Yeah, any idea?
This is news to me.
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay, but when you say please correct, that's what you're looking at.
Yeah, I don't know where to look, or, you know. We need an end date. We just need an end date.
Yeah, thanks.
Well,
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Mr. Morel?
Right, so since our last meeting, thank you. So you recall that we had we passed, it was local law 3 of 2020, which had to do with parking, of course, but specifically put in place some no parking areas near the intersections with Route 89 and Bear Street and Glen Street Extension, as well as there are some other changes to our code as well. That adoption of that local law was subject to an Article 78 proceeding, and which we were successful in a motion to dismiss that proceeding here at the Supreme Court level. That decision to dismiss that proceeding has been appealed, and that appeal was filed within the last month. So this evening, I am asking that the board authorize Boylan Code law firm that is already doing work for town to handle that appeal as well. And I've spoken with David Howe from that firm. They agreed that they could just expand their scope of services. Nothing else would change as far as the agreement with the town, other than taking on this additional distributional manner. So I am asking the town, I have a quick resolution for that purpose. I'm asking for the town to authorize them to work on this. It is something that is more in line with what they do, and they're more familiar with doing that. And so I'm asking for their resolution to authorize that. But other than that, other matters would be coming up later on the agenda.
Okay, so I'm going to do this right now just because if I don't, I'll forget. So I have a resolution here, whereas the Cute Indian Nation had filed an Article 78 proceeding challenging the adoption of Local Law 3 of 2020 regarding parking of motor vehicles, and whereas that proceeding was dismissed by the Seneca County Supreme Court, and whereas that decision is now being appealed to the Appellate Division, 4th Department, and whereas the town of Seneca Falls has engaged the services of the law firm Boland Code on other matters, and that firm has agreed to expand the scope of services agreement to include this appeal at the rate stated in the existing agreement. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the town of Seneca Falls that the scope of services from the firm Boland Code is expanded to include the appeal of the matter of Article 78 proceeding of the Cute Indian Nation and Clint Half Town versus the town of Seneca Falls. Can I have a second for that?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion or further questions for Pat?
Mike?
Yes.
Is it people parking on the corner down there? Is that the issue?
The issue is Local Law 3 restricted no parking on both the south and north side of East Barrett Street Extension, and also restricted parking on the north and south side of Garden Street Extension.
Okay.
So yes, it was to help our residents in that area, because especially weekends and the first weeks of the month, first days of the month, traffic is very, very heavy, and it allows our police department to enforce parking problems and violations. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Okay, Pat, thank you. Councilman Avery?
Move that we accept the monthly report for the Water and Sewer Department as submitted.
Second.
Pretty self-explanatory. Joe, anything you need to add there for clarification?
Nothing to add.
Okay. Water and sewer have been very busy on different projects. They're starting to fix some of the permanent patches for the multiple water breaks we had over the last 7-8 months. So that's being done, but things are looking a little better. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you. Councilman DeLeus.
Move to accept the monthly report for the town justice.
Second.
Any questions? Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you. Councilman DeLeus.
Move to accept the monthly report for the police chief. Anything I can add is on the parking. I think Pat's taking care of that, right, for tickets?
Yeah, we're going to talk about that coming up later in the agenda. Additional things to make it easier for our guys.
Any questions or further discussion? Chief, anything on your end?
Just want to give everybody an update on April 24th. We were over at Kinney Drugs for Drug Take Back Day. It was our largest event out of all the events we posted. 92.2 pounds of prescription medication were taken back. I don't know if that's a fluke or just people don't are kind of keeping it in their homes, which is not a good thing. I want to remind everybody that we have drop-off locations at the police department, county office building, Waterloo PD. There's some areas in the south end, I believe, that have some drop-off locations, so you don't have to hold that until a drug take-back day that we have right in our lobby. If it's after hours, hit the button, an officer will come around and let you into the lobby, and you can put it in, so it's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Please utilize that.
Okay.
Yeah, I have looking over your report, and I noticed every category up this past month, right? And quite significantly. And do you have any idea what
Well, I mean, a lot of it is we're comparing it to last year, so we always compare month to month from the previous year. That we were in the midst of heavy COVID-related things. So, like traffic infractions, our officers were a little less hesitant, a little more hesitant to stop a very minor traffic offense than where they are in this month due to contact with people on the streets. Believe it or not, when we first had the pandemic, crime and things of those natures were fairly low. People were sitting in their homes and really minding their business. That is not the case right now. We are, and also mental health related incidents have been consistently 20 to 30% higher than last year. So we're very busy at this point, doing a lot of different things. We're stretched thin. We're asked to, be down at, for instance, Cuba Corners, monitoring that while we have arrests at Walmart daily from thefts going on at Walmart once or twice a day. So we have officers pulled in every different direction trying to take care of all the needs that the town has. And we're a busy agency.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, any further questions? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Thank you. Mr. Baker, B&L report. Make sure you use that microphone.
Got it.
Thank you.
I have 2 items on the agenda later on tonight. The one you and I, Joe and I talked about earlier, that's actually on the agenda, we can find out, so.
The one you said wasn't on the agenda, but it is?
It is on the agenda, yes. We read it too quick. Beyond that, I mean, nothing to add. We did, the one item on Kingdom Road, we did pursue some potential federal funding, that was good news. We made it past the first screening, so we've applied for upwards of a potentially $2 million grant for that project. That's at the federal level, then hopefully we'll find out in the next few months. That's tied to the overall infrastructure budget, that's the infrastructure bill that's currently being passed through Congress.
Thank you. Peter and myself and Joe and Doug have been meeting above and regular times for a lot of different projects and so forth. So it was a busy month with a lot of water and sewer things coming forward. So Peter, I want to thank you for being timely with everything. I appreciate it. Okay, all in favor of accepting the engineer report, please say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Thank you. I'd like to make a motion we accept the grant, MRB Group grant report for the month of April. Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you. Emily.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm great. Just quick highlights. Worked with police department, obviously, on the governor's traffic safety committee. Particularly your officers, Christeni or Investigator Christeni and Lieutenant Snyder were awesome to work with. We really plowed through, and we're looking at applying for almost over $20,000 more than we did last year. So we're hoping for good stuff there. And there's 3 different grants we wrote for that one. And then also for Bridge New York, the culvert grant, the Bear Street culvert was submitted. We got comments already back, which we will then update. And then the Rumsey Street Bridge will be submitting the pre-application tomorrow. And also the consolidated funding application, which is New York State's big grant drop. It usually drops at the beginning of May, so it's going to be coming soon. And also the DRI was funded, and it would be great if things moved on that. I could, for you guys.
Great. A lot of things that we want to do, projects are tied into the CFA grants and other grant called WIA. So a lot of what we're trying to do is hopefully we're going to get some money. And I think with the emphasis on water and sewer improvements, I think we'll have some hopefully good luck. Something I didn't mention earlier, part of the Great American, I forgot exactly what the word, Great American what? $1.9 trillion Great American, I can't remember.
American Recovery Act?
Recovery Act, thank you. I was going to call it the Great American Bailout, but I didn't want to say it. Anyway, there is, municipalities are slated to receive funds from this multi-trillion-dollar Recovery Act. And Seneca Falls is slated, as of right now, nothing is official, but initially when it came out, Seneca Falls was going to receive $925,000 from the Recovery Act. That money has to be, we can use that money for COVID-related expenses throughout the past 12 months type of thing, which we have many of them. But also there's other uses of the money if you can provide the justification for that. And water is one of the things that you can use it for. So another possibility, we can, put some money in reserves for projects down the road or use it for projects that are in the pipeline, but that's just something out there. Okay, all in favor of accepting that report, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you. Councilman Avery.
Got a couple of things here from the Development Corporation. First of all, the farmer's market is slated to open June 15th. We do a lot of referring back to how things were last year. Last year, if you were down there, there were a fairly small number of vendors because space had to be maintained and so on. We're going to be told this is 17 vendors along with the barbecue truck and the ice cream truck. More produce, food support goods than ever before. So it should be a great market. It'll run again from 3 o'clock until 7-ish on Tuesday nights. We moved to that, I would say we, but not me, but moved to the afternoon and evening hours 2 years ago, I think, and they proved very popular, so we'll stick with it. Emily referred to the DRI. I say it every month, we haven't heard a thing, except that we're told that the people who make the decisions are starting to talk to each other now.
And it was allocated in the New York State budget. For
Right, money's in the budget, so
Yeah.
it ought to be coming. But, we've been saying that for months, so who knows? But at least there's progress. You may have remembered we've spoken occasionally about a statue that's coming. It's called Ripples of Change, and ultimately it will be down here. But because the expectation is that the DRI is going to provide money for considerable revamping of the People's Park area for the time being, for the next couple of years, it's going to be over across from Generations Bank, kind of overlooking, it's sort of in the same area as the existing Three Women statue, overlooking Trinity Church. And it's a great looking statue, and there are some website pictures and so on that you can find. It's going to be dynamic. There are large characters, 3 women, 4 women, I think. And they're physically larger than the characters that are in there. But it's being brought here with some federal funds. It's not, there's no cost to us. And it should be here later this summer. So preparations are underway for that.
Okay, thank you. All in favor, please. Let me make a motion. I make a motion we accept the Seneca Falls Development Corporation's monthly report. Have a second, please.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Can I have a motion to accept the communications for the month of April? We have 6 of them here. Have a motion and a second, please.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Thank you. Moving on to old business, sale of surplus property. Pat, we'll move that one to you.
Okay, so the sale of the condo 115 is still pending. We'll have to get that wrapped up sooner than later. 10 Fall Street there will be a request for proposals, which proposals should be received prior to the next board meeting. So hopefully we'll also discuss on that.
Received or put out?
We have put them out. We will have them prior to the next board meeting.
Okay. And
then,
Doug, does Joel know that?
I don't think so. I don't remember us ever talking about what kind of a date to put.
Yeah, do we put a time limit on them?
we put it so that it would come in before the next board meeting.
So it's been out for how long?
It just went
It just went
out,
out.
so it'll be the whole.
For 30 days?
Yes.
You're saying for
Yeah.
30 days?
Yes.
Yes, it'll be about 30 days, yes.
I mean, that particular RFP, in the past, we've done it for 6 months, 8 months, you know, trying to give developers enough opportunity to get in it. I'm at 30 days, I mean, well, it may be standard for RFPs. I think in this case, I'm not sure that's going to shut ourselves in the foot.
That could be changed.
Can we,
We can re-advertise.
well, can we put it out for 30 days and then extend it for 30 days or no?
You can do that, sure. I mean, and we can put it out, you know, within the next week.
Developers
and
kept
have it
saying,
Okay.
it's COVID, we can't do anything. Well, COVID is ending now, we still gotta give them a substantial time. If we could give developers through the summer, you know.
Yeah, I think that's, you know, if we put it out until, you know, August 31st, I think, you know, and there's been a lot of interest in, you know, I have opened up the property multiple times, 10 Fall Street, for developers who are still trying to work out an arrangement with 2 Fall Street and 10 Fall Street. So there's interest. I'm not saying it's going anyplace, but I think that's be more prudent.
We have, I mean, we have it out there, we can put it out again with a different date. If we get anything in, we can always tell the folks that submitted something, well, we've extended this, you can hold it, and rework your proposal, or do it however you want. Yeah, no, that's, we can do that.
Can I ask why we're still not closed on 115? Because I'm getting a lot of these.
Just trying to work out everything with the being condominium and the rest of the, regarding the rest of the building, and then just working out the title issues regarding, we have property that's held by the village of Seneca Falls and it's being sold by the town of Seneca Falls. So we're just trying to work with our title company to make sure we can have this resolved so we're not creating problems for anybody in the future.
Do their attorneys know that?
Yeah, I've been in contact with their attorneys, yes. And then 60 is, last meeting we discussed that.
Right, that's going to be, so we have to ask if there's, can we do that now or no?
Sure.
Yeah.
This is.
So, under old business, right, we can, while we're talking about property, so we had provided a month for the opportunity of a public referendum. Town clerk, 3 of you have received nothing?
Nothing.
No opposition, no 250 signatures
No,
or
I
anything?
haven't received anything.
Okay. So, Pat, can we, do we need a motion to develop that lease?
No, not necessarily. We did the motion last time, it was subject to the first referendum period, and so we're all
Okay.
set to go.
I need that very quickly, I'm sorry.
No
Okay.
problem.
And it's elderly, it would be the leaseor, okay?
Yep.
And it was 700, right?
Yeah, and that's all in the original,
Yep.
in the original resolution.
Okay. Because they're looking to
Perfect.
get started.
Again, looking toward the DRI, is there a timeline
Right.
for this?
This is just like a 5-month type of thing.
Yeah.
The guy's got a project in town, and when it's over, he's gone. And I told them,
But we were speaking about it in kind of nebulous terms, so is it 5 months, 6 months? Or
I think the calendar, rest of the calendar year would be to cover our bases.
Yeah, I believe it was in the resolution.
Resolution.
I think it was for 6 months at the time. But I know the term expired before the end of the year.
And I talked to the one who has the contingent purchase offer in, just to make sure she doesn't get the wrong message.
All right, sure.
Okay, thank you. I have a resolution here, resolution authorizing adoption of the town board of the town of Seneca Falls, the local law number 5, 2021.
All business.
All right, let me, which one was that?
This is
There it is. I got-
old business.
No, I have to do demands related to SMI license. Okay? Okay, I have a resolution here. Resolution denies Seneca Meadows Chapter 185 permit application. Whereas Chapter 185 of the Town of Seneca Falls Town Code requires a permit for the construction of operation of a landfill in the Town of Seneca Falls. Whereas Seneca Meadows submitted an application for a permit for the year 2020. Whereas the town was sought to impose reasonable conditions on that permit. Whereas Seneca Meadows has refused to implement or even engage in negotiation of these conditions. Whereas Seneca Meadows has invoked procedures to terminate the host community agreement between the town and Seneca Falls. And whereas the year 2020 has passed and this commission has not been resolved, now therefore be resolved by the town board of the town of Seneca Falls that the Chapter 185 permit application submitted by Seneca Meadows for the year 2020 be denied. Have a motion or a second for that resolution, please?
Second.
Second. Discussion.
This is just to put 2020 to bed.
Correct. And this was Pat, the board, majority of the board asked Pat to put this together to put 2020 to bed.
Put 2020 to bed.
2021 still out there, okay, but that puts that to bed. Any further discussion? All in favor of this resolution, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? I am opposed. I want to put it away, but I was never in favor of not issuing the permit in the first place, so that's a 4-to-1 vote. Okay, Town Manager Feasibility Committee, just to remind everybody, tomorrow night there's a special board meeting here, 6 o'clock, and the Citizen Advisory Committee is looking for direction. So that will be, as I said, starting at 6 o'clock. I don't think it'll be very long. It's a special meeting. The public is welcome. This is basically the Citizens Advisory Committee, a group of 14 people who are working on recommendation for the town manager's position. Then there was the board wanted to look at a feasibility study to see how efficient town government is. That was not approved due to it was not budgeted. So the advisory committee wants to meet with the town board to find out what direction they want the advisory committee to move into. So that's what that public meeting is. So if you didn't get enough tonight, come on back tomorrow. We have more to give. Okay, Princess Park budget modification and repairs. I think this is Missy and Dave and Don.
I don't have any numbers yet for repair work. I have some quotes that I've gotten for different parts of the pool, and the pool house, and the pump and the roofs. I've gotten the process started, but I don't have exact figures yet of how much we would need to transfer, which I think I need before we transfer it. Do I understand that? So hopefully by the next meeting I should have exact.
Okay, just want to keep everybody, reminding everybody the next meeting will be June.
I know.
And we traditionally open the first week in June, and nothing's been done, so that won't happen. And just to remind everybody that COVID-19 is, we'll have to develop, Missy will have to develop an operational plan, COVID-19 plan. I can tell you that the municipality of Liverpool and Baldwinsville on the east side of the state have closed their municipal pool because of COVID. There are restrictions that I've shared with Missy, 6 feet apart distancing, locker room supervision, keeping people apart, blah, blah, blah. So just want to make sure everybody understands that you know, but some decisions are going to have to be made because we have to get people lined up to work. And so.
As far as the pool goes, quote for the pool, to repair it, I'd like to get that repaired. I've got a.
We were supposed to be working on the repairs and a budget to do that.
But it's $5,200. I'd like to lock that company in, get a hold of them and accept their offer for $5,200 to repair that floor
But we have someone
They were
else.
available.
You can accept that, but it won't, they can't do the work until next year, or late this year, right?
Somebody just called me at about 5:30 today and said that they'd like to have the opportunity to look at the pool floor, that they think that they have the ability to fix it for less. They don't know how much the quote was for, but they said that they might be able to do it at a very good price, and they could do it before the start of the pool.
That'd be
I
wonderful.
mean, if we could get it open by the end of June, but again, it would have to be with a lot of COVID rules, but, I mean, I think we could do it if we could, you know, most importantly is the pump. I'm still waiting to hear from the pump people, just to be sure.
Does that floor repair have to be done before the pool opens?
That really doesn't, but it would be nice to get
Sure.
as much as we
It's,
can done.
you know, it's sharp.
But if we go with, if we just have this one company, they can't do it to the fall, that doesn't mean we have to close the pool.
Right, right.
But 6 feet apart, no chicken fights. Huh?
No, and then might loosen up by the end of June. I mean, I'm hopeful that things will change a little bit more and that we can still safely open it.
Yeah, you know, maybe that we open
There's
it with
also-
one service center service staff.
We also have somebody coming to check on the leak by the end of next week. It's just hard to get everybody to come out.
And that's what I'm saying, if we can lock one of these companies in.
Yeah. I would like,
That would go, you can lock them all in, but that would go to the assumption no
Even
matter
if we
what.
don't open it.
But I'm saying, no matter what the price is, we're gonna lock it in.
No, and so we already had one for 5,200.
Yeah, the
unless you had
price
to
is
call
really good
5:30
for-
with
they're-
No,
somebody
I
else.
understand that, that's just for the
Yeah.
floor though.
Yeah,
Okay, you
floor,
got,
that's
you gotta
what
get
I'm
the pool operational, you got electrical issues, you got a locker room issue, right?
no,
No, you don't
I
have the
mean,
carpet
it's-
stuff that have to go?
they don't, none of that has to be done, but it should be done. I mean, aesthetically.
Can we get a bus and send them to the lake?
Yeah.
Yeah, Central Lake is open.
Why don't you just
Cedar Lake's open.
The board has made a decision, the majority of the board has made a decision to keep Vince's Park operational, okay? So that's the direction the board has decided, the majority of the board, okay? So by a 3-2 vote,
How about the
that's,
people be able to vote?
pardon me?
Why aren't the citizens able?
Well,
to vote?
because in the nature of our government in this country, you have a representative board of elected officials who make decisions for the people they represent. I wish,
But
trying to imagine the chaos of every time you had some type of
But
controversy.
we're not all being represented.
Well, these are, all of us up here were elected by the people of Seneca Falls, okay? So you are represented. If you vote, you are represented.
So Missy, as you get those numbers, could you put them together and get to the board members? so we
Absolutely.
can know what we're dealing with? All right, thank you.
Thank you, Nancy.
So there's nothing we need to do with this resolution tonight?
I don't think there's a resolution to, unless there is,
Well, there's a budget
this
line.
one here.
No.
Creating a budget. This is just creating a budget line.
Yeah, I mean, you can't do a budget line unless you know what the budget is.
I would move that we table this until we get the budgetary information.
Yep.
Or not even, just don't move, take any action on it.
Okay.
So we
Steve made a motion, well, we didn't take any action, I don't think we need to do anything, do we? We didn't take no action. And I just don't know where we are here. You These are all new business, so we got resolution for, my resolution that I gave you for Seneca Falls, for the efficiency study.
Is that just on the agenda from last month? Is that on the agenda from last month?
That's still on the agenda last month, that's what that was.
All right, so that's.
No, but I gave you a resolution to move that forward.
We do before we speak.
No, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, no, not on that, I apologize, no. Okay, so no action, I apologize, no action required there. The next one, approval of the water treatment plant study, NYSERDA Flex Tech. Is there a resolution here for that one, Missy, or Nikki?
Yeah, it's here somewhere. Move to 52,000.
Yeah, but it's jumped in, that's just in meters.
This is it here, complete water treatment plant study, correct?
Yes. Can I have that, please? Can I borrow that from you? Okay, so under old business, we talked about a water treatment plant study last month, and then the board's direction was to get more details and so forth. So Peter and Doug and myself and Eric Pan from B&L met. So this resolution refers to that. Whereas there has not been a completed water treatment and distribution study in the town of Seneca Falls for over 15 years, and whereas there's grant money available through NYSERDA that would provide 50% of the cost of the study, and whereas the town needs to develop a comprehensive plan for infrastructure improvements and a 3 to 5 year budget plan, and whereas the scope of the project will be completed by NYSERDA and approved by NYSERDA, and whereas once the study is completed, the preliminary engineering report can be applied for any future funding for engineering projects related to the water treatment plant and water distribution projects, and whereas the estimated cost of the study is $52,000, therefore be it resolved that the town of Seneca Falls employed B&L Barton and Judas to complete the study at a cost not to exceed $26,000 for the town's 50% contribution, and therefore be it resolved that the funding would be used from the F1440.400 engineering planning fund. Have a second to that, please?
Second.
Thank you. There is $30,000 in the budget already for engineering planning. So this resolution would take that from that $30,000 line item that we already have.
Can we recoup that back out of that Recovery Act, maybe, that 900,000?
Yeah, I mean,
For water,
I mean, it can,
down the road.
it could possibly, yeah. It's water related, absolutely. Discussion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Okay. That's taken care of. New business. We have some special events.
We do. Okay. We have, the Democratic Caucus is going to be over in People's Park, May 19th, and they are all set with any paperwork that they need. Here at the Rec Center, we're going to do a Canal Side Skate Jam that the Endy brothers, Tom Endy's going to organize, or is organizing. We're co-sponsoring him. And that, he still has to finalize the paperwork, and Chief has to sign off on that one. Yeah, but they do have the COVID protocol and everything else in place. It's going to be all day long on a Sunday, May 30th. It's like 9 to 5. They did that a couple years ago. It went very well. There were no problems or issues with any of the participants. And that will all go back to invest in new equipment for the skate park. And the Legion is going to do a parade on May 31st, Memorial Day parade. We have their insurance and all the paperwork already turned in, so that's all set. And then June, well, this isn't until June, but I'll tell you now, it's all set. June 21st, the Studio of Dance Arts downtown is going to do a recital or performance at the bandstand in People's Park. And they also, you know, upon approval, They have their insurance already submitted, and they will be following all guidelines at that time, you know, for COVID. And that'll be in the evening on that Sunday with the rain date of the, well, Saturday, Sunday, and then there's a rain date of the next day if there's any issues. And we do have the farmer's market paperwork already on hand with all their insurance, and that's all been submitted. So that's what I have. Any questions?
Yeah, again, I can't emphasize enough that everyone needs a COVID-19 plan that has to be approved, and you should forward that on to the county Department of Health, okay, to make sure all the things are covered. But basically, you know, mask wearing, crowd control, 6 feet distancing still, all the basic requirements. Okay?
And I have been in touch with the health department regularly on all their rules and guidelines.
Perfect.
Okay.
Any other questions for Missy? All in favor of accepting the special events, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. We have approval of rental of heavy equipment. We have one, right?
Yeah, we have the one bid that came in was from Seneca Pipe and Paving, and everything looks to be in order and is in line with the other bids that we've done every year for this purpose. So this is the sort of thing we do to get rates for a number of different items of heavy equipment. And so we establish rates and, you know, for the equipment, for an operator, so our departments know when they need a piece of equipment, they have an idea, they know what it's gonna cost. Part of the bid is that it will be available with, I believe it's 2 weeks notice. 2 weeks. So it expands the ability of our departments to do this sort of work.
Okay. All in favor of accepting the bid from Seneca Stone?
Seneca Pipe.
Seneca Pipe, I'm sorry.
We've got to have a motion first.
Thank
We don't
you.
have a motion.
We have a dollar amount.
Well, there's a number of different items. It's establishing a rate for a number of different pieces of equipment and the operators for it. You could adopt it pursuant to the proposal submitted. So if the motion sounds something like that, Nikki, we should be able to.
Okay, I'm getting it from both ends now. What am I supposed to be doing, a motion?
Motion.
Do we have, is somebody,
So I move we accept that bid.
There you go.
With the pay schedule as outlined in the bid material.
I second it. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And then we have another bid opening for the tree removal contract for the year.
Yes, and the low bid that came in is from Lumbermac Incorporated out of Phelps, which is low. It's both per day and per hour, and both rates are lower than the other submission.
I'm going to make a motion that we accept the Lumbermac bid for tree removal for the 2021 calendar. This is for the calendar year, correct?
Right, we're only going to December now, and then January 1st, we're going to
We
start.
made that
our-
agreement. Can I have a second for that?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. I have a resolution here, proposed local law number 5, authorizing adoption by the town board of the town of Seneca Falls of local law 5 of 2021, whereas a public hearing was held on May 4th, 2021 at the town of Seneca Falls Community Center, and all parties in attendance were permitted an opportunity to speak on behalf of or in opposition to said proposed local law. Whereas pursuant to Part 617 of implementing regulations pertaining to Article 8, State Environmental Quality Review Act, it has been determined at the town board that the adoption of said proposed law would be type 2 action under Section 6 New York CCRR Regulations 617.5C, 22, and 33, And whereas, after due deliberation and consideration of the comments submitted by the town, residents and other interested parties, including the chief of police and highway superintendent, the town board of the town of Seneca Falls find it in the best interest of the town to adopt said local law. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board of the Seneca Falls hereby adopts said local law number 5, entitled the local law that adds section 280-13-A and amends sections 280-14 and 280-18 of the Seneca Falls Town Code relating to parking, a copy of which is attached hereto and made part of this resolution. And further, resolved that the town clerk be directed to enter said local law in the minutes of this meeting and in the local laws of the town of Seneca Falls, and give due notice of the adoption of said local law to the Secretary of the State of New York. Have a second for that resolution, please?
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Jim, pull the signs. Yes?
Pardon me, I didn't.
Pull the signs tomorrow?
Yes, we can do that.
On John Street, Johnson Street,
Yeah.
whatever you get, you know.
Yeah. You're gonna help me, right?
Sure. I'll help you and your staff on Friday morning, all right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Let me know what time you want me to bring the coffee on Friday morning.
Yes, it'll be done tomorrow.
Friday morning. Whenever you have time, Jim. Nobody reads the signs anyway. Thank you.
Can I ask a quick question?
Yes, sir.
There's, you know, as we try to clean up the signage and so on, right on the other side of this bridge, there's a sign that says no overnight parking.
On the side where, Doug?
On Bridge Street, right on the other side of this bridge.
Okay. So on the
seem to
east
be-
side of Bridge Street?
East side of Bridge Street. It would seem to be in.
That was supposed to be, that's just for the winter parking, right?
But it doesn't say.
Yeah, but that should be up in there, but we'll check it out.
Okay.
Yeah, I know they had one up there on the building, but the homeowner put it up there, which wasn't supposed to go up there. But that was on, that would be, what do we got here, Keith?
Yeah, you're talking on this side of, on Bridge? On the north
We're
side?
on the other side of this bridge.
In front of the Heritage or?
In front of
We'll check it out.
It just doesn't, it seems like we're trying to clean it up, it seems to be like left over from something else or something.
Yeah,
It
probably.
doesn't I looked at it, it does not refer to it being seasonal parking.
Okay. I make a motion that we make the final payment to the Seneca Falls Visitor Center of $50,784. Have a second for that, please?
Second.
Thank you. Again, this was something we budgeted in the budget process for 2021. We should have allocated the whole amount to them, or dispersed the whole amount last month, but so this will be the final, what we agreed to pay for the visitor center. Any further questions or discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. So carried. I have a resolution, I guess. Local law imposing a temporary one-year moratorium on approvals for energy production and distribution facilities.
This is a resolution that would introduce it and set a public hearing. So that is attached to this.
Okay.
This is the action of the board.
Okay. So last month's board meeting, we had discussion about a moratorium, on a one-year moratorium on approvals for energy production and distribution facilities. It was a late introduction. I believe there was a vote, 3-2 vote to move forward with some type of resolution to put a year moratorium on this. And then I think our attorney said that there would have to be a resolution and a public hearing. It would go in effect in
Yes. So
June.
a moratorium is a local law. Local law requires a public hearing. What we have tonight is really the introduction of the terms of the local law and setting a public hearing for the next month's meeting.
Okay, so I don't know. Steve, this was your idea, I think?
Yeah, so I'll second, do we have a motion for this resolution to set up the public hearing on June 1st? If not, I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Discussion. So, Pat, the resolution now, you want me to read?
Sure.
Okay. Resolution introducing the proposed law providing for a public hearing, whereas the town board of the town of Seneca Falls believes it would be advantageous to the town to amend the town code as it relates to the energy production and distribution, whereas the town anticipates there may be an increase in demand for energy producing and distribution facilities in the town that may receive a number of new applications and requires inquiries about the establishment of enlargement of energy producing and distribution activity, whereas the town board of the town desires to address in a careful manner this integration question on a comprehensive town-wide basis rather than on an ad hoc basis. Now therefore be it resolved that proposed local law number 6 of the year 2021 entitled a local law imposing a temporary one-year moratorium on approvals for energy production and distribution facilities be, and the same is hereby introduced before the town board of the town of Seneca Falls. Be it further resolved that the copies of the aforesaid proposed local law be on the desk of each member of the town board. Further resolved that the aforesaid proposed local law be referred to the town's planning board and Seneca County Planning Board and for review recommendation. Be it further resolved that the town board will hold a public hearing on said proposed law at 6 p.m. on June 1st, 2021. And be it further resolved that the town clerk publish or cause to be published a notice of said public hearing in the newspaper and the town at least 10 days prior thereto. Upon adoption of the foregoing provision, the clerk distributed copies of the aforesaid local law to each member of the town board. So, can I have a second for that resolution?
Second.
Okay. Discussion.
Talk about the contents of the moratorium itself, or just whether to move forward with it? Anything, okay. Is this wording sufficient that it slows down and increases conversation about the large commercial projects, but still leaves the possibility for an individual homeowner, individual building owner to
Yes, there is the part of the local law, there's the paragraph entitled applicability, and it designates the types of projects that come under the tent, so to speak. I invite the board members to review this, to look at it closely. It is casting a wide net, but it does specifically exclude from the moratorium projects that for energy that's used on site and for I believe it's 25 kilowatts. Or there's a number in there, so I don't have it in front of me at the moment, but it's in the paragraph for applicability. It's
25 kilowatts.
25 kilowatts, and that is generally your typical residential installation. You know, somebody's doing a project and going to put some solar panels on their roof. That would not come under this.
Thank you. My second question is, if because the whole idea of this is to study and to talk
and to
communicate
and to implement, and not just study and talk, but study, talk, take action, and put regulation for these sorts of projects.
Right. So my question is, what if we're ready to go in 6 months?
Oh yes. So I mean, you can. This is your local law. You can rescind it at any time. Yeah, this board can. And that's the idea. The idea is that you put this in so you can take action without something sliding in while you're taking action.
So it would expire a year from...
But it would expire naturally within a year. If we get something in place before that, which I hope we do, then we can terminate it.
Thank you.
I'm all in favor of looking at renewable energy and solar energy and wind energy and different projects to align our zoning and codes to those types of projects. Obviously, renewable energy is the major focus point in many communities throughout the country. And again, the state of New York especially and the federal government has dedicated billions of dollars to renewable energy. So these projects are obviously in the forefront. So I think the town of Seneca Falls certainly should do some comprehensive work on setting the parameters. I would make a recommendation that this work would come, we already have a planning and zoning committee that meets on a monthly basis. And as we renewed our arrangement with MRB to work and facilitate this work, we had developed a priority list, and this was on that priority list anyway, is to start working on renewable energy types of things and restrictions and zoning and so forth. So I would encourage that to allow that committee, who has representation from the planning committee, the planning board, the zoning board, the town attorney, and MRB, to continue looking, to begin looking at this comprehensive study, okay, to set up the parameters. I would like, I'm opposed to this as it's written because I don't think it should affect the projects that are in the pipeline, okay? And as I mentioned, I think last month, there are 2 projects that are in the pipeline that both companies have invested financial resources to move it through planning and zoning. And both projects have been approved at the county level. Both projects have been approved. I believe this, I don't know if the second one was approved.
There is a solar project out on Garden Street Extension.
Right.
They have received all their approvals.
They received all
They
their
have, they have their.
So they should be all set.
They should be all set.
Okay. So there's the other project is the RED project on 414 North, which is an energy distribution project that has been approved by the county level and is tied up or tabled at the planning board right now for a month. So that's my only concern. The projects, that one project that's in the pipeline, they should be allowed to continue, or we made it, you know, at the time they came involved in Seneca Falls, you know, there was no moratorium. So they've invested a great deal of time and resources into that project.
But it's in part because all of these projects are here, including them, that we're saying slow down.
Right. Right.
So, and I don't think, as far as what these companies have done with planning or zoning, and correct me if I'm wrong, that doesn't get undone. You know,
Correct.
if they've gotten their approval at that level, you know, they'll still have their approval at that level a year from now, or 6 months from now.
Okay, so let me just to be clear, this will affect that project. The way this is written, this would affect that project. So that project would, the moratorium prohibits a building permit being issued. It prohibits action being taken by the boards. So yes, you're right, wherever they are in the process would be put on hold, and then they wait. So this would affect that. If the board is of a mind to have it not affect that, we can write it that way. Let me know how you want it to be. So, but this becomes a discussion for the board members of how do you want this moratorium to look. So with the public hearing will be next month. So let me know, and I can prepare it as the board sees fit. In the meantime, as Mike said, there is an application with the planning board. There are application materials down at in the zoning office with the town clerk. They're there if you want to get an idea, or if you want to give me a call. If you want to get an idea about what the project is, you know, and so get familiarized with what the project is, what it isn't, and so we can see what the situation is there. I invite you to do so, because this would have a direct effect on that particular project. So,
May I suggest, I mean, this is to schedule the public hearing.
Yep.
The vote on it would be next month. So this is really just to schedule the public hearing.
Yep.
And look, yeah, I think we all know, I'm certainly in favor of holding up the one project for sure. Because, number one, I don't know a whole lot about it, but it seems to have some potential big adverse implications, I think, for our town. Our town is very small. We aren't a very big town. Don't know much about what they're going to be doing out there at 414. What I've heard, trucking in manure, possibly training and, bringing in by train. I mean, who knows? What is the scope of this? What's the whole? And I don't think the planning board, they don't have any codes to go by as far as our town has, so they really have no defenses. But I think this is a project certainly that requires a timeout. Doesn't say that it won't happen, but this is a timeout so we can consider what we really want to do, what's in the best interest of Seneca Falls, and that's what we should be doing. It's not what's in the big interest of big industry, okay? It's what's in the best interest of Seneca Falls. And I don't believe that a manure project that's bringing in, hundreds of thousands of gallons of manure from farms that don't even exist in our town, I fail to see how that's going to be a big benefit to us.
I don't think that's the project.
I
know it's not the project. That's a figure of speech.
You have an application. Come look at it. It does not involve bringing manure into Seneca County.
Okay.
Okay? But it's not a mystery. We have an application.
Yep.
We can come and take a look at it, and, some of it's electronic, I can email it over to you. But it is actually, they are taking gas from dairy farms, from the manure from the dairy farms. They're processing it on site. They're cleaning it up so it can be injected into a pipeline.
Not on site in Seneca Falls.
No, on site at the farm. They truck it to this location on Route 414, and then they go, and from the truck, the gas is injected into the pipeline.
It's already been there for decades.
Right. And there's pipelines all over New York State.
You understand that? No, I understand.
But that's what the project
That's the
is.
project. There's no manure, there's no farm waste. That's the project.
I'd like to call the question.
Call the question already? We have a lot of people in the...
Well, this is to schedule a public hearing.
I understand
The
that.
public hearing is the time when people...
I'm gonna let a couple of people in the public...
That's why we get out of here at 11 o'clock at night.
No, a lot of times,
I have a very short comment.
to me.
I would just like to say I am a member of the planning board, and I appreciate your concern about the other, these projects and the work they've done. But I think you need to kind of extend the planning board the same amount of concern. It's a tremendous amount of paperwork, there's so much to look at. And it's being tabled because we need more time for that. So I just want to make sure the board understands that we have a lot of work to do, and we don't want this to be so short-sighted that something happens that you'll regret later.
Okay. Emily?
Just my concern, as far with grants rolling out, I don't know, I'm not reading the language, so I don't know. But I don't know what green energy projects covers, and with the DRI project list coming from the state at any point, and with the governor putting a lot of focus on green and wind energy, there might be funding coming out in the CFA that might be related to that. And if the town makes a step in that direction, they might be making a statement they don't want to make, or might want to wait to see how that funding rolls out, just so that they're not giving any indication if they're for or against projects across the board. And just be mindful with the funding about to roll out, which could be in the next any day now. I just wouldn't want that to affect that.
Yeah,
Mike?
Yes, sir.
Is the green energy, does that have something to do with the solar?
The solar...
Solar still, is there only 2 people in Seneca County that are doing the
doing the solar, the one out on Gravel Road,
That
318.
project is not over, that project is gone, the statute is sale.
Okay, and then the one on Garden Street Extension, you told me?
That's what we're talking
That's the
about.
one.
That's gone through planning and zoning.
Okay, so is
That's ready for a
there any
shovel.
more?
Pardon me?
Is there anybody else?
I don't think
Not
we
it.
have any on that page.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
But this would be affecting more than just renewable energy. It would include renewable energy, but it would also include, all energy production, of energy production that the intention is to then turn around and sell it to the grid.
Yeah. And that's gonna consist of the manure?
Well, it's.
Again, it's-
Yes.
I bet those neighbors will be real happy.
All right, we will, so Pat, if I would like to somehow not have this incorporate projects in the pipeline, do I have to make a motion to amend that at this point or wait until June?
You can wait. If you'd like me to prepare language for that purpose, I can do so.
Well,
And distribute it.
I mean, I don't think I can arbitrarily make that decision, can I?
Well,
You can offer an amendment in June, yes.
In June.
That's what he's saying, he can prepare the language of the amendment
Yeah.
for you.
Would you do that, please?
Sure, absolutely.
Thank you. Okay, very good.
So we need to vote on this.
We do, I think. So, all in favor of the resolution to have a public hearing on local law number 6 for 2021, please say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? So carried. Okay, I have a resolution here to modify street lighting budget for street lights on Sackett and Shamrock Streets. Whereas the roads of Sackett and Shamrock Streets were extended by the village of Seneca Falls several years ago, whereas no street lights were added at that time of constructing these extensions, which has resulted in a safety hazard for those residents who walk that extension. Therefore, be resolved that the Seneca Falls Town Board does hereby authorize the principal county clerk to modify the 2021 town budget with an increase of line A5, 182.200 street lighting equipment by $2,040.31. The funds come from the A1990 contingency fund. The work will be done by the New York State Electric and Gas, which provide the estimate of work. Funds must be paid prior to the start of the installation work. Can I have a second for that resolution, please? Thank you. This is something that a lot of residents in that area that came forward to me. It's a very, very dark corner, as I mentioned to you a few months back. Jim has worked with NYSEC to get this project going. If you've ever worked with NYSEC, it's like dealing with I don't know who. But anyway, so this is the resolution to add those street lights. And again, just want to remind people that we're in the pipeline for a complete lighting change throughout the town to LED, which is a separate project from NYSEC at very little expense to the town. So, questions, comments?
So this is not a budgeted item.
This is not a budgeted item. It's coming out of the A1990 400 contingency fund.
I know where it comes from. What does it take? I mean, there's areas all over now that we're a town that don't have streetlights. So what's the criteria for folks to get streetlights put up along where they live? I mean, out where I live, there aren't any streetlights. I didn't know that you could just ask and get them.
I can only tell you my opinion, it might be the wrong opinion. I think it's, if it's a safety hazard, I think that's something that we should consider. If people are making complaints, I think that's an issue. As a town supervisor, I asked the town highway superintendent and the police chief to look at it, and so that's my criteria.
I understand that, but do we put streetlights along Bear Street Extension because folks are walking there in the evening? again,
I just gave you my criteria. This is, yeah, good questions, all good questions.
I mean, we talk about trying to save money, and I'm just trying to figure out where we draw the line. Because this isn't budgeted, so we're gonna take this out of landfill money. That's our contingency, landfill money. And again, what happens to our budget was general fund, $5.5 million at January 1, and when we get done at the end of this year, it's gonna be $7.5 million that we spent, because we keep taking out contingency.
Right, but when we spend it.
And that answers Paul Kelsey's question. Where does it go?
We
This is where it goes, $2,000 at a time, $52,000 at a time. It's just we keep whittling away at contingency.
And I don't see a problem with it. This is exactly what we should be spending landfill money. To me, I see the definition of infrastructure as pretty broad.
You don't think we should be setting any aside for the rain
Yes.
rainy day?
We are. I mean, we should be doing both things.
Well,
We should be doing
we are
everything we
doing
can
that.
to make sure our infrastructure is in as good a shape as possible. We should be setting money aside for the future. We can do both things. This was a situation that was made by the village when they connected those two streets. And it's a right angle. I mean, it's for all intents and purposes an intersection. And if it's unlit, it's unsafe. There's going to be a car in somebody's living room somewhere. So this to me is a no-brainer.
Further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed?
Close. Unbudgeted.
That's 4-1. Councilman Churchill opposed. Make a motion, please, to accept the resignation of the supervisor's confidential secretary, Kim DeVay, effective after tonight's meeting. Well, it's actually effective last week, I think, so whatever. I make a motion for that. Can I have a second, please?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. I have a resolution here to upgrade the Town of Seneca Falls' website, whereas the Town of Seneca Falls' website has not been updated in over 10 years, whereas the current website is confusing to use, utilitarian in nature and quite antiquated, whereas it fails all tests of ADA compliance and is not fully mobile, is non-secure, and suffers from an outdated, clunky architecture, and whereas 3 proposals were requested for the update of the website, and the complete upgrading will include mobile responsiveness, ability to list core departments, forms, documents, resources, town services, contact information, and more, provide adequate ADA compliance, and provide secure HTTPS SSL certification. Therefore, it be resolved that the Town of Seneca Falls enter an agreement to update the town's website at a cost not to exceed $7,600 for the web development, which will include staff meetings to gather data and input and training. Web hosting will be provided with a variety of payment options when needed, including a package ranging from $80 to $60 per hour. The funds will be transferred from the A19 90.400 contingency fund to the A1010.407 fund. Have a second for that resolution, please. Thank you. Discussion.
I have a question.
Hang on.
Isn't that something that your IT,
Pardon me?
isn't that something that your IT could take care of?
No, IT is a little different than web design. IT takes care of basically computer issues and
Okay,
internet
because the
issues,
state,
things like that. Web design is a separate entity.
They do the web design.
No,
So
and
that's
we don't
not-
have an IT department per se. We're in a arrangement with Seneca County IT. So for our IT needs, Seneca County takes care of them, and then they bill us for that work.
I see.
Question I have, when did the board move to send out requests for bids on this project?
Board didn't move. There was no formal RFP. There was a meeting that I mentioned the website, even I think it was last calendar year. So I did not put out an RFP. It's a professional service, so it's not needed. I met with, and Chief of Police Pinstra met with me with 2 of the 3 companies. The police department has its own website, and this discussion started with the fact that we'd like to make it all Town of Seneca Falls website. So the police chief had a proposal from another company, and then I invited 2 local companies to sit down with us and tell them what we were looking for and to give us the quote. So the bottom line is our website is not ADA compliant, which is an open door for issues. And it's not a very good website because it's old, it's antiquated. So nobody gave me permission, I just went ahead and stopped that information out. But I feel obligated legally to do that.
Well, that may be fine, but I mean, I think the board should have reviewed and perhaps had some input into the requirements for.
You have your opportunity right now.
No, this isn't the time or place for that. But, you know, we've got 2 resolutions. We got one in our packet, and the price changed from $5,600 to $7,600.
Yep, I sent an email out earlier today to making you aware of that. I sent an email out at 11 o'clock this morning, making all the town board members aware of that. And
so be it resolved,
explain to you why that was, and I can explain it if you want me to.
So this one has a name on it, and then the name's taken off this one, but I assume it's the same name, right? You gotta have, who we paying $7,600 to?
There's been 2 proposals. The lowest proposal of $5,600 comes from FLX, and the second proposal comes from Finger Lakes One, who is our current web host and web designer. They've been the web host and design. They designed the website 13 years ago.
All right, so you said $5,600 from FLX and
FLX Creative.
So this is asking for $7,600.
That is from Finger Lakes.
Finger Lakes One, they proposed $7,600. Right. And to be honest with you, not knowing really what they're offering, and it's unbudgeted again. This is not a budgeted item. And so
I put in the resolution what they're offering. I mean that kind of sums up what it does.
Well, but
it is unfunded. You're absolutely
they're
right.
2 different organizations. I think I personally have a little problem with FLX Creatives because they're also our Seneca. They're getting paid to be our Seneca Falls Development Corp.
To make sure we're talking facts, FLX is not related to Seneca Falls Development Corporation. The owner of FLX Creatives is Greg Zellers, who is also the director that gets paid by the town of Seneca Falls $52,000 for 26 hours.
Kind of conflict. Be kind of like Stoneboat, right? Not being able to do any IT work because I'm on the board. It's kind of that. I can see where it could be interpreted as a potential conflict.
I don't see how it's a conflict.
Plus, he's representing the Seneca Falls Development Corp. I mean, that's
which is a separate entity from.
But to develop, but that corporation is to help grow the economic and develop Seneca Falls economically. And if that person's taking work from other entities, I don't see how that's helping other entities stay in business.
And that's why I changed the resolution from the tentative agenda. That's why the resolution was changed.
So who's getting recommended?
We're having a discussion on spending. I would make a recommendation that we go with Finger Lakes One, okay, for many of the same reasons you have stated.
Okay. Well, I guess this one confused me. I thought you were recommending them.
Nope. Again, that one you should throw away. The first one you should throw away. I would be recommending Finger Lakes One. And again, for the obvious reasons you just mentioned, but more importantly, they've been the web designer, web host for multiple years. It's an established business who has, 5 employees, and that would be my recommendation.
And I would agree with you. They also are very responsive. I mean, I work with Jim, Stoneboat works with Jim for a number of our customers and clients, and they're always there. They answer the phone, they get back to you, and take care of any issues that come up. I don't see any reason. I would also recommend that we go with Finger Lakes Corner, stay with it.
Jim sent out an email to all board members and explained his thoughts, so.
Any further discussion?
Yeah, just a couple of different things. The one thing that I think is I don't have problems with the potential you see as a conflict of interest. And I see in some ways, because Greg Zellers is associated with the Development Corporation, he's more accessible. And I think he can be a little more agile as far as getting things done. He's also doing a lot of the things. He's putting the sites together for the Development Corporation to have a calendar and have all sorts of things that have to be tied into this. And to work, one party to another to get something to happen, to me seems cumbersome. On the other hand, we have complained about the town website. I mean, as long as I've been here, we've been complaining about the town website, but I don't think Jim Seneca has ever been asked to do these things before. We simply complain that they're not there.
Right.
But there's also, you look at the town, the homepage for the town, and there's stuff there from 6 months ago that never got cleaned off. And I think Greg would be aware enough that he would just do that. Now, maybe Finger Lakes One will just do that. It's simply a question of telling him what the new expectations are. I don't know.
I think a lot of it right now is nobody saying, okay, that comes down, or that comes down, you know what I'm saying, type of thing. I don't think any web host would just upon themselves take it down, right, Steve?
Yeah.
Somebody's got to be directing them.
The way it should be designed today is that people have the ability, when I say people, within our organization, to make those edits on the website.
And that's
Yeah,
part of
that's
this.
the direction we need to
That's
go.
part of what
So
we're
then we
having.
take on.
Right, and that's what I mean. I don't think, we sit around and complain, myself included, about that site, but I don't think he's ever been asked to do these things before. I'm not going to know. So I'm sort of speaking in favor of both. I can see both situations working well.
And it is built on extremely old technology. Technology today is much easier to work with.
Just for 1 year?
Pardon me?
1 year?
No, I mean, once the price not to exceed 76 is for the actual design, which would take probably, and you got to gather information and so forth. They got to meet with department heads and so forth, but that'll probably take anywhere from 3 to 5 months. Okay, and then the hosting is we pay Finger Lakes One right now to host the website automatically. That's a yearly budgeted thing.
And the other thing you might want to keep in mind is currently Finger Lakes One is your email provider, the town's email provider. Now, I'm not saying that that's a
correct.
solution, but they currently are the email provider, and that may be bundled somehow into the website.
Okay, further discussion.
So
Steve, I think you want to make a motion to.
So we should have, this should be amended if we're going to go with Finger Lakes One to say Finger Lakes One.
Okay, so that's, so I'm gonna, make a motion to amend the resolution that the contract be awarded to Finger Lakes One not to exceed $7,600. Have a second for that, please?
Second.
Second for the amendment. All in favor of the amendment to the resolution, please say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? We have a resolution that will now appoint Finger Lakes One as the company for the web design. Can I have any further discussion? All in favor of awarding the job to Finger Lakes One, please say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? So carried. Okay. I have a resolution here. Whereas the Highway Department would like to surplus the following items: fuel tank, toolbox, 5x8 utility trailer. Whereas these items we put on Auctions International for sale, these items are no longer used. Now therefore be it resolved that the Seneca Falls Town Board hereby authorize the surplus of these items to be auctioned out through Auction International. Can I have a second, please? Second. All in favor? Oh, I'm sorry. Discussion? Questions? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. So carried. I have a resolution here roof at the wastewater plant, it's a budgeted item. Whereas the town water wastewater department needs a roof installed in the finals pump state building. Whereas we received 3 bids for the roof, with the low bidder being Proctor Enterprises from Stanley for $13,250. Therefore, we resolve the town board authorize Proctor Enterprise to install the roof at the wastewater plant for $13,250. Have a second for that, please?
Second.
Any discussion or questions for Mr. Tulo? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. That's carried 5-0. I have a resolution here that includes budgeted items, resolutions to purchase water main valves, whereas the town board approved purchasing easy valves from FWF for 2021, whereas the water wastewater department is in need of 2 6-inch easy valves on Johnson Street and for State Street. Now therefore be it resolved that the town of Seneca Falls Town Board does hereby authorize the purchase of the valves from FWF for $10,950 installed. Could I have a second for this, please? Second. Thank you. Discussion, questions for Mr. Tulo? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Carried. I have a resolution here from the Parks and Recreation Department. Water Street Hill Maintenance. Be it resolved that the Seneca Falls Town Board approves the maintenance of Water Street Hill by Barbase Ground Maintenance, LLC of Seneca Falls for a cost of $5,495. The project includes pre-season weeding, plantings and mulching, as well as watering, weeding, and other care throughout the season. The cost is within the budget. Itemized description: cleaning, prepare the hill, an island for planting, $12.25. Plant flowers, $19.55. Water and fertilize flowers on island and the hill for the season, $15.65. Keep island and hill weeded for the season, $7.50. Take care of the town supervisor's lawn and mulch, no charge. Just kidding. Anyway, I need a second for this resolution.
Second.
Any discussion or questions for Missy?
Just the mulch part.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. So carried.
Mike, can I add something to that?
It's something we want.
Related to that.
Huh?
That hydrant, that yard hydrant will be installed this week.
Fire hydrant where?
On that hill, right?
I don't know, I know we're getting a fire hydrant.
No, yard hydrant.
Oh, thank you, sir, thank you. Yes.
Hopefully by the end of the week.
That's not the same thing, though.
It's just the same area, that's all.
Yeah. Rotary asked me to try to get water. There's a fountain up in Katy Stanton Park, and Rotary asked me to somehow get a spigot. So Aaron talked to Joe talked to his people, blah, blah, blah. So we're putting like a water well there type of thing, so they don't have to run back and forth getting water.
Okay.
Because they maintain Katy Stanton Park.
Yeah.
Right? What are you looking at me like?
We're talking about right here.
Yeah.
We're talking about up on Katy Stanton Park up there, aren't we?
No.
No?
Right here. Right here on the hill. Yeah, you're playing in the same place.
That's the same thing.
Where the Christmas tree was? Where they cut that? Yeah, that's where they're talking about.
Right, it's Katy Stanton.
On the left hand side of the
Katy Stanton Park.
Jim.
It's going down towards the canal.
Where do we have the Christmas tree?
Katy Stanton Park.
Huh?
Katy Stanton.
That's Katy Stanton Park, right?
Yeah.
You guys trying to drive me nuts or what?
Yep. It's working.
That's Katy Stanton Park. There's where the water's going.
It's working. It's going on the hill.
Hey, it is working, you're right. If that's what you said, it's working? So this resolution that's in Parks is on the other side.
Perfect.
Got me?
Got it.
Thanks, Joe. Okay. Did we vote on that? I think we did. All right, I have a resolution for Parks and Recreation. Vincent's Park transfer of funds from the town, and do we want to do?
So moved.
So moved for what? The resolution? Yes. Whereas the Vincent's Park manager will not be returning, and whereas the park manager responsibility will handle the assistant park, whereas every year the grounds crew expenditures exceed budget allowance, Therefore, be resolved that the Seneca Falls Town Board approve the transfer of funds from Park Manager Code CR2 7110 to .100 to the Grounds Crew Code CR2 7110.103 in the amount of $6,000, resulting in the proactivity covering the grounds crew required expenditures. Second, please.
Second.
Thank you. So, okay, so Kevin has resigned.
Yes,
But we're replacing him with some capacity.
kind of.
So, kind
The
of.
assistants are.
Combinations of
Two
two people.
assistants, yeah.
And that combination is going to be $6,000 less than Kevin's salary?
No, but it was set up where the park clerks, also all the maintenance people were within that range too. So if you take Kevin's 6,000 and give it to the grounds crew, I still think that the two assistants are going to be within their codes.
Okay.
Based on past. They would be giving them a little bit more money
So you
to,
won't come back in August asking
Maybe.
for, maybe, huh?
This-
I got some numbers worked out.
We need this done regardless of what we decide on the other decisions we make next month.
well, there was $1,000 in the budget for the grounds crew. We just paid them out of different codes in the past, I'm not sure why. So we were just trying to get them in the right line where they should be. You're definitely gonna have people working on the grounds either way, I would assume, because to maintain it.
Okay, any further questions or discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? All in favor, so carried. I have a resolution, senior account clerk's pay adjustment, whereas it's been the goal of the town board to allow the training for senior account clerks to absorb some of the responsibility of the principal account clerk, as the scope of these responsibilities become larger than the ability of one person to appropriately handle. Whereas it's been the goal of the town board to allow for training the senior account clerks to be cross-trained in all aspects of office duty. Whereas it's also been the goal of the town board to allow for training the senior account clerks to be prepared to absorb the responsibilities of the principal account clerk in the preparation for her eventual retirement. Whereas there's becoming a clear delineation of duties as payroll has been completely turned over to Cassandra Gamling as part of the initial transfer of duties. Whereas this transfer of more of the water and sewer responsibilities is being shouldered by Sarah Wright due to the increased time spent by Cassandra with her new responsibilities. Whereas the principal account clerk still maintains oversight of the responsibilities and duties of the office until such time as training is complete. The transfer of duties is accomplished to the satisfaction of the supervisor and the town board, and she has notified the board of her intent to require. Therefore, be in consideration of the progress of the senior account clerk in the pursuit of their training and successful implementation of that training, they be granted an increase of $1.25 an hour to be effective with payroll number 10. Can I have a second for that?
Second.
Thank you. Discussion.
This was explained to us exactly like this.
I think that provided some background and history, and I think we're, again, headed in the right direction. Bev's job is a complicated one that has gotten way more complicated over the last 10 years financially. When you talk about bonding and budget and all that other stuff that goes along with it, a lot of times people don't understand or see. You know, just walked out the door tomorrow, we would be in a difficult situation. So that's been my goal, to get these two younger people who are educated and trained to take over, share those responsibilities, and that's been working out very well. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? So carried. I would like to make a motion that we appoint Susan Devine Solar to the Zoning Board of Appeals as an alternate, because we are without an alternate for that board. Can I have a second for that appointment, please?
Second.
Second. Thank you. Susan had initially requested to be the planning alternative, but there was a relationship issue that we had to kind of switch things around, and Nikki had reached out to her, and she's more than willing to serve on that board now as an alternate. So, all in favor, please say aye.
Did we get any other applicants?
No,
This was it. So
that's it. There were 2 applicants. One is now, one has been appointed to the planning board, and she's going to be appointed to the zoning board as the board approves.
And we got to fill a couple spots too on the,
We have to fill 2 alternate spots on HPC, which is being advertised.
so Nikki's advertising for that.
It's hard to get people to volunteer.
Okay, any further questions or discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you. I have a resolution here, whereas the Seneca Falls Town Board would like to lower the speed limit to 25 miles an hour on Noble Road Hill between Route 89 and Lower Lake Road, whereas this will make it safer for residents and people walking on the shoulder of the road. Now therefore be resolved, the Seneca Falls Town Board does hereby authorize New York State Department of Transportation to do a study on this road and set the new speed limit according to this study. Can I have a second for that, please?
Second.
Thank you. This was something that was supposed to be done last year, or 2 years ago. Noble Road residents came to board meetings. I was, I participated as I was a participant. No, I wasn't. I was a spectator at some of those meetings, and I don't know what happened, but the board at that time agreed to move forward with this request from the New York State Department of Transportation. There was never a formal resolution. The former town supervisor was supposed to reach out. That never happened with a letter. So this is kind of just cleaning up some old business from 2 years ago. And it takes an act of Congress literally for this to happen, unfortunately. We're still waiting for approval on George Road, and that's been in the pipeline for over a year. So, but anyway, we'll play the game. So that's what this is all about. Any further questions or discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
So carried. I have a resolution here to modify signage budget for non-budgeted no parking signs installed to enable enforcement of town parking code. Whereas due to the need to enforce current no parking codes in the town of Seneca Falls, whereas the no parking code cannot be enforced without proper signage to indicate that parking is prohibited, whereas no parking signs were not installed along streets with code requires there to be parking, whereas the cost to purchase the no parking signs is non-budgeted item and will result in line A 3310.402 being overspent when the budgeted signage is purchased. Therefore, be it resolved that the Seneca Falls Town Board does hereby authorize the principal account clerk to modify the 2021 budget with an increase of line A 3310.402 by $2,000. The funds will come from A1990.40 contingency. Can I have a second for that resolution?
Second.
Discussion or questions? So I can only add a little bit of insight. When we matched up the codes to what was actually on the books, and when we did a tour of the town and realized that you got a no parking law here, but there's no signage, we tried to make it consistent. Jim had to buy multiple no parking signs, which has left his budget short for other types of signs as well. So that's why this request is in front of you. And I know it's under that unpopular contingency budget.
Yeah, and are we saying that you depleted your signage budget?
Pretty much. Pretty much. It was almost $5,000 in posts and everything, and the no parking signs for this project that we just
No,
did.
but I think the appropriate way to do this is if you have $10 left in your signage budget, then you should, after you pay for this, then you should, if you need more signs in the remainder of the year, you should come to us, and then we pull those funds out of contingency. I don't know why we're paying for these signs if he's got money in his budget.
Those signs are already paid for.
Correct, out of your budget.
Out of my budget.
So why does it say that the funds?
I've got more signs. I've got a list that I showed Mike of more signs that I need to put, you know, to buy.
And you need them this year. Can they wait a year?
Yeah, they can wait a year, but if,
Well, then we wouldn't have to take money out of contingency.
true, but if I need them, then.
Well, that's why I'm asking you if you
I'd
need
have to
them,
order
or
them.
they can wait a year. I mean, there's a difference between want and need, right? And we need to, you know, budgeting appropriately, and if we can put things off to the next year, we can budget them in. That, you know, just,
No, hey,
that's the way I think it should go. I mean, it's the way we operate at
I
home, right?
just
We don't
gotta-
have enough money to save up and buy it next year. All right, enough of my side.
Other questions, comments? And again, I think one of the objectives of starting the budget process early and also meeting with the department chairs, I think goes along with a lot of these. I mean, some are unexpected contingencies and some are uncontrollable, but we all need to do a better job of budgeting so that we can, you know, not keep coming back to boards and asking for this, that, and the other thing. This is not on highway, this is all of us.
Well, the real disservice is that, again, the folks in this town think that $10 per thousand is paying for all of our services, and it's not. It's
Right.
not even close.
Right.
We budget $5 million and we spend $7 million.
Right.
So, you know, we're fooling. We're fooling ourselves, we're fooling the people.
But over the years, his budget for signs, we've knocked it down.
No, I'm not just, it's not
And
just
if we left
that.
it up at 3,000 or 4,000 where it used to be, he wouldn't be here asking, I need $2,000.
No, I get it,
without the
I get
signs
what
up.
it is, and this was, but we should have seen, we knew we were gonna be addressing the codes, and we were looking at parking issues last year. We probably should have budgeted more money for the sign. But I just wanna stress that what we're doing is fooling the public, because we spend so much more by the end of the year, by dipping into contingency for everything. I mean, you know, we'll add it up. I mean, tonight it's probably getting close to $100,000.
100. Which one, 100?
Well, I mean, if you add up,
You got 2,000 there, and you got
8,000 there, 3,000 there, 2,000 there. I mean, I'm just saying, it adds up quick.
Oh, no doubt about it.
I'm just saying, Steve, but back in October, when we made the budget, we put in for more signs. That wasn't, we didn't even talk about the no parking signs back in October about this. This is other signs, just Stu and myself to talk about. So they raised the budget for that. Then all of a sudden in January, they want to do the no parking signs. So we went around, so we spent all that money on these no parking signs and posting everything, so now I haven't got any more money for the other stuff.
And I'm not,
So,
it's
I mean,
not,
back at budget time, yeah, I did have enough.
yeah.
But in January, when they said, oh, we're gonna do this, well, I had to use all that money that I budgeted for the other signs for them, so now I had no money.
Well, then it's up to the board to pick our priorities, right? Maybe what we should have said is we're gonna put the parking thing off till next year.
Well, at budget time, we did recommend that more money put in signage for Jen, and they did do that. So we did foresee some of this.
Right. I'm just saying, you know, we spend a whole lot more than we budget.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor of this resolution, please say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? So carried. I have a resolution here, the commission, well, I guess it's not a resolution. I have a motion that the Restville Cemetery Commission has requested bids from new area contractors for repair of 34 sites. Listed below the results of the bid. Seneca Monuments bid is $31,774. Having used the business in recent years, the commission recommends its support to award the bid to Seneca Monuments, 3818 State Route, Palmyra. Chris Seneca is the owner, and it goes on to provide a couple other things. So this is a budgeted item from the Restvale Cemetery Fund. Have a second for this motion, please?
Second.
Thank you. Any questions I can answer? I probably can't answer a lot of them, but Nick, you might be able to. This is an ongoing.
Monuments?
that have been put over the side of the bank?
I'm sorry?
Monuments that have been put over the side of the bank?
Those are some of the monuments that need to be repaired. There are a lot of monuments that are really old, that have crumbled or have been tipped over, that have to be repaired. This is what they do every year. They take so many with what money is budgeted and repair these monuments.
If you walk down the cemetery, you can see them.
Yeah,
Sad.
yeah.
And that's a whole other discussion, and don't get me wrong, I'm all in favor of it and so forth, but me being a Catholic, on the other side of the road, we don't pay for, when my monument, my dad's monument or my mother's monument has been destroyed or chipped, the Catholic, the cemetery commission doesn't pay for it, okay? And I get it, and I'm just saying, it's all big picture. If you want to say no spending here, no spending here, no spending here, that people have to realize a lot of these things are going to have an effect on the day-to-day lives of everybody.
Okay, I just have to say that these monuments that they're repairing are monuments that are very, very old.
Oh, I know.
Nobody
We'd have to
around.
dig up the owner and get the money from him. I get it, I get it. I absolutely get it.
Yours is covered by home.
Huh?
It's covered by home.
Okay, so I think we approved that.
No, we didn't.
We did not? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you.
You skipped
T and you skipped T.
T and you.
Oh, there's no T. S-T-U-E.
Yes, have I got by that yet?
Yes.
You did?
Yes, you did.
T.
T and you.
Oh, I got the rest below. Very well. See, the town clerk doesn't have any paperwork in my basket for T.
No, because, is that something that the papers aren't talking about?
Okay.
So I forgive you.
So, I'm going to make a motion that we spend, hang on, I'll get it for you.
Peter has the bids.
I make a motion we spend, Peter, what was that number, 30,000? I wrote it down. Oh, $33,090, right?
Yes.
Yes. I make a motion that we spend $33,090 to have sewer inspection, not sewer, water pipe intake valve inspected at the water treatment plant. Can I have a second for that motion, please?
I'll second it.
Thank you.
Discussion now. That's
Peter, can you fill us in?
and outside, right?
Okay. So this is a request that we asked to put an RFP out, so we sent an RFP out. This will be for commercial divers to go down, inspect the pipe from the outside, and actually send a submersible camera down the intake of the pipe as well. It's specialized work. We reached out to 3 firms. One firm replied they cannot actually meet the requirements. They have a camera that would extend 2,100 feet. We got bids from 2 firms. The low bidder was Bidco. We did reach out to Bidco. They're ready, willing, and able to do the work. They're a highly qualified firm. So our recommendation is if the town would award the work, we would recommend the town does award the work. It's something that's long overdue. That'd be giving the Bidco a low bidder.
Is it budgeted? Yes, there's money in the budget for it. Thank you.
Okay, any questions or further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you. Okay, and in T, I'd like to make a motion that we appoint Richard, am I still there? No, I know, my attorney's whispering in my ear. Am I okay, Pat? I'm on letter U. Did I skip anything else?
No.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion that we appoint Richard Stambinski to the part-time zoning officer and code enforcement officer at a salary of $32,000. Could I have a second for that motion?
Second.
Thank you. Obviously, we've been out of a zoning and code enforcement officer since Dean's illness and then eventual retirement. It's been troubling at least. Nikki is the assistant officer, right? Nikki, you're the assistant code and zoning enforcement officer. And Kim Rhodes is, who was appointed as the code officer, or not code violations person, part-time, has been filling in type of thing. We posted the position with the county as it's a civil service position, and the personnel committee interviewed the applicants. I reached out to Mr. Stavisky this morning, and we had a discussion, and he had some questions and concerns. We've addressed all that, and so he's on board with the appointment tonight. And if he's appointed tonight, he will be starting Thursday. He has experience in nearby communities, a little part-time work in Montezuma, and part-time work as a code enforcement officer in Weedsport. So I think the personnel committee made the right selection. So,
He also did code enforcement when he was on the fire department in building for Auburn Fire Department.
right, he's
20 years.
Any questions or concerns? All in favor, please say aye. Huh?
Which one? Does he live here? Can he vote?
Ah, sorry. Speak up, boy.
Neither candidate.
He lives in Waterloo.
Bursley Road.
They're both.
Is that a problem?
Yeah.
There's a residency requirement?
Yeah, there's, it's a town officer, and there is a, so where's Chris Wagner in all this? From the county?
Chris does not know, I have not shared Chris with Chris who the successful candidate is. He's forwarded me obviously the resume.
He gave you the names,
He
says they're qualified?
He vetted the applicants.
Both applicants were from Waterloo.
Okay.
So do we have to do something?
Change our laws.
Yeah, possibly. Possibly.
Get a candidate out or something?
Should say,
Should we do it, can we appoint him on a interim basis?
yes, that's what I would recommend.
And then
You
you
already
can
have the list, and I'll have to,
give it to Chris.
get with Chris.
I can tell you the other applicant, the only other applicant is a Waterloo resident also.
Okay.
There was one town, Seneca Falls resident, who dropped out
Okay.
when I contacted him for an interview.
I would say, go ahead, I'll check it out with Chris.
Then I'm going to make an amendment to my motion. My amendment to the motion is to appoint Richard Stavinsky as an interim code enforcement officer and zoning officer until residency requirements are complete. A second for that amendment?
Second.
Second.
Any discussion on the amendment? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. My motion now is to make a motion that we hire the services of Richard Stavinsky on an interim basis until code or until residency requirements are researched at an annual salary of $32,000 a year. Do I have a second for that motion? Any further discussion? Mr. Attorney, anything else on the amendment?
No.
Okay, thank you for that. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Thank you. Okay. Now we're on a letter of New York State DEC relative to landfill. So what am I doing here?
Okay, well, this is a lead agency letter.
Is this the letter you wrote to Scott Turner?
No, this
No.
says letter from the DEC.
Okay?
So this is a letter from the DEC. They are notifying the town that they are nominating themselves as the lead agency for the landfill expansion application. So it came on April 8th, they give you till May 8th to respond. So you can respond with contesting their designation as lead agency, if the town board wanted to be lead agency for this application. If you don't recommend that, you can respond and say that you do not object to them being the lead agency. You can not respond, which would do the same thing as telling them that you do not object to them being lead agency. Or you can respond and give comments to the application itself. What is attached to it is the part 1 of the State Environmental Quality Review Environmental Assessment Form. That's all the information about the project that has been submitted to the DEC. So you can take that and make comments if you will, if you wish. That's not required, and this is the beginning of what will be a fairly long and involved process with the DEC, which will have much opportunity for public comment, and this is the application and the seeker review that the board has authorized Barnwell Judas and Boylan Code each to participate in on behalf of the town. So ultimately, nothing is required unless you want there to be. But if you do nothing, the DEC acts as the lead agency, and in the letter it states that this is likely to receive a positive declaration, which would then require an environmental impact statement.
Have we seen the application for the expansion?
No. I'm sure they haven't sent it to us, but I'm sure you could get it from the DEC if you wish.
Then, I mean, it's a technicality, but, I mean, how can they expect us to make a judgment of whether we want to be a lead agency for a project that we haven't seen, we have no information about?
What's required is that they send the part 1 of the environmental assessment form, which you have,
Yep.
and this is the same thing that the town does, the zoning board and planning board does when they have.
So that, this is the extent of what we get to know about the project before we decide whether we want to be lead agency?
No, but if you want to investigate further, sure you're welcome to do so. You can contact the DEC and say, well, let's see the rest of the project. But this is the initial thing.
Well, I know it's the initial
This
thing.
is what's required under the.
But it seems like the cart before the horse, because my understanding is the application really is not complete in its entirety. There's still some questions that are going back and forth between the DEC and SMI. So again, I think that this town should have a copy of that completed application for the review of our town engineer and our town attorney, or in this case, Boylan Code, to review before we decide whether we want to be lead agency. I think that's a reasonable request. I can't believe they're giving us, like, what, 3 days? Today's the 5th, right?
They give you 30 days. This came in on.
Right, well, tonight we get this first, I've seen it. So we get 3 days to make that decision, and we haven't seen the completed application. And we haven't had anybody review that completed application. So I would like to make a recommendation that we respond to the DEC that we can't, essentially convey that. We can't make a decision that we do or do not want to be lead agency because we haven't seen a completed application. And so that they should get us the completed application and then start the clock 30 days after that. That's what I think we should be conveying to the DEC.
Fred?
I think one could imagine that the DEC and Seneca Metals are a conflict of interest. I think what you should do as a board tonight, you've got local law 3 in place. But now you're talking about expansion. It kind of says local law 3 move over.
It does.
just go back and say, DEC, you're not going to be the lead agency.
Well, I mean, the reality.
You don't have to take it as the town.
The reality is that they probably are the
You
only
wouldn't want
entity that's qualified to do it, because it's gonna, it's gonna be a type 1, it's gonna require environmental impact statement. But the process here is what I'm arguing, is not correct. They're asking us to make a decision of whether we want to be lead agency, and we really don't have the application. We can't evaluate the project. We know very little about the project.
Here's my question.
We've already,
Is the DEC come to this board to talk about local law?
That would be wonderful, but they won't, you know, they won't do that. But we've already designated our town engineers to review on our behalf. We have nothing for them to review. They can review this information here, but there's a whole lot more information in that application. That's why the DEC is going back and forth with questions that I would like our attorney and our engineering firm to review. So that would be my motion, that would be a letter to the DEC saying, no, hang on here a minute. We need the application before we can be asked to decide whether we want to be lead agency.
Peter, your would not include being the lead agency for the secret. That's a different level of, correct?
Well, I agree with Pat. Typically, ultimately, it's going to be a complicated project, and DEC is, I think the end result of the DEC will be lead engineer.
And then look at it would be a pricey, expensive to be the lead agency, correct? I mean,
I'm not asking us to be the lead agency.
Well, it's either us or the DEC, right?
Well, no, it could be.
Well, ultimately.
No, they've communicated to all these other parties here as well. I mean, you got
There's lots of folks involved.
right, including the Cugas.
Ultimately, you can contest them being the lead agency, and there's a process, with back and forth, which ultimately the lead agency will be determined by the commissioner of the DEC. So, we can make that argument if you wish.
I'm not in favor of
I don't know
it.
where we're going.
I just don't have to waste the money
But
for lead agency.
I do have a question for Peter, and that is, does Bartlett Judas have access to the full application?
We don't have it in our hands. We can FOIA it. We could ask the landfill for it, and they might provide it to us. We haven't asked them formally, but I'm sure they will.
I'm pretty sure I gave it to you last August when we applied in all the reports and the 600 documents, so. But we'd be happy to provide it to either the town or directly.
We were just notified that the SMI has responded to the DEC's questions type of thing, and that happened just last week, I believe, right?
Yeah, there's been a couple back and forth.
So they haven't finalized based on your responses, correct?
Correct.
That's not the application. That's
No,
completely
it's not
different.
the application.
Yeah, the application we've had for,
The letter from the DEC to them said the application was not complete.
there was,
That was last fall.
well, the original application I'm talking about, the completed application, that's what I'm saying, is still not complete.
Right.
Correct.
Well, that's what we're referring to. There is no completed application. We just heard that.
I get it.
Okay,
I get it.
all right.
I get it, man.
Okay, Mike, you get a chance to speak an awful lot in the course of the night. This is a very important issue to me. So don't keep saying, I get it. I'm trying to clarify for people who might not get it.
What do you want me to say, Steve?
I don't want you to say anything.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Dan? You got this letter too?
Oh, yes, I did.
And
I read through it all.
Pardon?
I went through it all. We went through it with my board on Thursday night, and by unanimous voted on 4-0. We decided to have the DEC be the lead agency.
Is it?
And the reasons being because they have the personnel, the engineers, the consultants, what have you.
Is it, from your experience, is this normal that we would be taking this step before the application is complete?
I'm sorry.
Would it be, is it, from your experience, normal that we would be taking this step when in fact the application, the completed application hasn't been received yet, it hasn't been developed yet?
done the advice of council also, help me explain me.
Typically, a seeker review involves quite a bit of back and forth. And typically, the seeker review itself reveals additional information that you want to see.
But this is,
So that's very.
And that may happen before there's a completed
I
application.
would almost guarantee it.
well, but the question at hand is very simple. They're asking us whether we want to be lead agency or not be lead agency.
Yep.
Correct? And what I'm proposing is that we write a letter back, our response be, and I'll make this a motion again, that we think that the cart is before the horse here. We cannot make that decision based on the fact that there is no completed application that we would like to have reviewed by our appropriate party. That's my motion.
Okay, could you repeat the motion, because I'm pretty sure nobody's got it.
That we respond to the, do you have it, Pat? Respond to the DEC.
I was hoping they could take it down.
Nikki, do you have the motion?
I think I might have something here, let's see, asking this. Okay, I am proposing that we respond to the DEC that we think that we cannot make that decision based on the fact that, we have no completed application.
For review by our engineers and our council.
Have a second for that motion.
I'll say.
Further discussion?
To me, there's logic there. That's what I'm trying to, it doesn't, it seems like, we're trying to do one step before the big thing, which is get the application on our desks, completed, and acknowledged as complete by the DEC, and then we move forward. And so it's difficult to understand why we would be moving forward with this step prior to having a completed application. That's why
I'm not an engineer, I'm not a lawyer, so I have no idea. My guess is the DEC, that's what they normally would do in this type of an application. Peter, I don't know if you have any insights on that at all?
It's a standard process. So
Yeah.
typically, as Pat indicated, that environmental review, which will ultimately be an impact statement, there'll be a scoping document. So there may be issues that come out of that may need to be incorporated in the final application. So there's more or less in parallel, but typically that environmental review is completed a little bit.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor, do you have any limits on how much we're going to spend on this, or?
It's a letter to the DEC.
That's what I'm saying, just no limit? Yeah, you're going to do that, or I'll put it out?
I can put it down. Well, I'll talk to them about it, but
But I'd like to add to that motion, to that.
Wait a minute, Steve, we have a motion and a second.
But I wanted to refer to the date, because they're saying they need a response by the 8th, and I'm saying we can't give them a response by the 8th because we don't have the application. So we really want to what we want to do is get the application, make a decision on whether we want to be lead agency after it's been reviewed, and then they can start the clock.
Well, my guess between now, today's the 4th, that's going to be a difficult task, but I can't speak for the town attorney. Okay.
That's what he knows. As long as it's on the record.
Any further discussion? All in favor of this motion, please say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? I am opposed. Okay, that's carried 4-1. I have a resolution here, whereas Kim Rose was appointed to the position of part-time zoning officer in July 2020, her duties being to look for zoning violations throughout the town and issuing notices of violation. Whereas on September, zoning officer Dean Zennemeyer went on a medical leave and since has decided to retire. Whereas Kim Rose assumed extra duties to fulfill the responsibilities of the zoning officer along with the assistant zoning officer, Nikki Greer. Now therefore be it resolved that Kim Rose be given compensation of an additional $1 an hour for assuming those added duties and responsibilities. Be it further resolved that this increase in compensation will be retroactive to September 15, 2020. And be it further resolved that this compensation applies only to her position as part-time zoning officer and is effective until such time as the zoning officer position is filled. Could I have a second for that? For the second. Discussion. Nikki?
Makes sense to me.
All I have to say is, it's a very busy time of year for one thing, and we have issued just 100 permits just in the last month. She has assumed a lot of duties, extra from going out and checking for violations. She's been putting input into the computer, she's been researching, she has been talking to prospective clients, who applicants who come in, asking questions. She's been tremendous. I mean, she's done a great job.
And she's done, and I appreciate everything she's done. She's stepped up. This is not a criticism of anybody, but you are the assistant zoning and code officer, okay? So I don't know why we have that position. I'm not sure, and maybe it's something that the board should look into.
Okay, that position is for to handle the applications coming in, okay? Also.
Which we have an assistant town clerk who does that.
Assistant town clerk.
We have an assistant town clerk that does that.
That's part of my job. Part of my job is to import them into the computer. We check the money, we have.
Okay, so we don't need an assistant town clerk for that job.
Oh, if she's there, she does it, yes. If I'm there, I do it.
But we have a 15-hour assistant town clerk
Yes.
for planning and zoning,
Right.
okay? And we have an assistant,
Wait, that's not, she's not an assistant town clerk for that.
Okay, what is
She's
she?
a deputy town clerk.
Deputy, I'm sorry.
And what she does for that 2 hour and a half that she is there, she does the minutes for the planning.
she works
zoning,
15
and
hours, 3 hours a
HPC.
day, right?
She works 3 hours a day, 1.5 on my schedule and 1.5 for zoning issues,
Got it.
okay?
Yep.
That's to take minutes for HPC, planning, zoning, and also to transcribe those minutes. So that's what she does in those 15 hours,
Okay.
an hour and a half a day.
Got it.
That's all.
Okay. And the other thing is that I know that Kim has been shared between the assessor's office and the zoning office.
Right.
And I do know for a fact that I know that the assessor has let Kim work more into the zoning end of it as well, type of thing. So it hasn't been a clean break type of thing, okay? I'm just trying to inform the world what's going on.
And somebody should have discussed this with me. I'm hearing this for the first time right now. Nobody asked me, hey Deb, how are you able to let Kim go? Oh, I'm taking on more work. I'm trying harder. I'm trying to help Nikki. I'm trying to help where Dean was. I'm trying to help the resident by, I've been bringing work home up until they closed the roll on me. You know, I took on more responsibilities to help the rest of the building function. So somebody should have at least stopped in my office, hey Deb, what's going on? Can we do this? Because I don't want my department, I was told to cut my department, I cut a lot at budget season. My personal opinion is any raise given should be adjusted during budgets, not in the middle of the year. I don't want this affecting my department when I worked so hard to cut it. I stepped it up.
Okay,
Nobody talks to me.
this
I talk to you all the
raise,
time.
Yeah.
this raise is not something, we don't adjust her salary permanently. It's just from the time that she started this, when Dean got sick, until we get a new zoning officer, which is a matter of maybe 3, 4, 5 months. And that's all. It's retroactive to that. That's it. And then afterwards, it's back to
Does that come out of Dean's salary?
Well, that could come out of
Come out of
Dean's.
Dean's salary, right? Not out
It
of
could
her
come
budget,
out
not out
of-
of.
No,
Deborah's
it has
budget.
nothing to do with the assessor.
Right,
It
comes
could
out of
come out
Dean's
of
salary.
Dean's salary, yes,
Okay.
because it's zoning, right.
I think one of the things that we'll share as a budget committee, I mean, you're doing everything plus
It's a
more.
hard work.
I'm a Tim fan. But You're hiring a zoning, the code officer, taking care of Kim for what she's done in the past, and then a stipend and.
I don't want a stipend.
Well, wait a minute. What do you get for this position?
What do I do get a stipend, yes, but
Yeah, what do
I
you
thought
get
you were
for it?
talking about an additional stipend, no.
What do you get for this? I think the board needs to look at stipends. There's stipends every place. Enough said. I'm not here to pick on Nikki either. You got 3 people working on codes.
If you leave, can you give me a cup of coffee? Any further questions or discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anybody opposed? So carried. I have some water credits to approve. There are 3.
Go ahead.
No, I can wait.
I was just talking, okay, I'll bring it up under any other new business.
I have 3 water credits that we need to approve for a total of $2,808.36. Can I have a second for those water credits? Any questions or discussion?
Yes. The first application, the big one, they're supposed to provide on the application a brief description of the leak. There's nothing. Description of the repair. There's nothing. There's supposed to be receipts for the leak repairs. There are none. I talked to Sarah today. This person is, I guess, lives in Florida. There's been difficulty getting information, but she's just not, this person is just not providing information. And so Sarah has said that we could approve numbers 2 and 3 and hold on to number 1 until this person provides information. That's just too much money to give away with no explanation. And there's a process, and she's chosen not to follow it. So my recommendation is hold off on number 1, approve numbers 2 and 3.
If you're making that amendment, I'll second.
So we have an amendment to amend the resolution. So we are going to, the amendment is to grant the credits for items 2 and 3 and not the credit for item 1. Any further discussion?
Well, hold off on item 1.
Right.
Yeah, we're not going to deny it.
Right, deny it, but we need the information.
Correct. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, so I'm going to make a motion that we provide a credit for item number 1 and 2.
No, 2 and 3.
I'm sorry, 2 and 3, thank you. 2 and 3, and hold off on item number 1.
Second.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor? Please say aye. Aye. Thank you. Any other new business?
So, I have something. So, back earlier in the meeting, there was a resolution to deny the 2020 permit. Along with that, in your packet, there was a proposed letter to go to Mr. Turner, the attorney for Seneca Meadows, and regarding the permit issues. It really just outlines the town's position. So, this is.
It's really a response to his letter.
Would you like me to read the letter?
No, not necessarily. I just
put it into the minutes.
I want you to know what it says because I want to send it. I want the board's.
This is the response that the board asked. This is the response to SMI, and it encourages. Pat lists 2 areas that we disagree with them on, and it makes reference to the host agreement, and also it encourages the opportunity for both sides to sit down and discuss the situation, which is also part of the host agreement, is to work out some type of mediation resolution in that.
But it does not state anything about opening the host
No, 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 no.
So I'll second, make that motion and we approve that.
I just want your approval with work.
Yeah. Everybody's had the letter. Anybody have any other questions for Beth? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor of sending this out, please say aye.
Aye.
So carried.
Who made that motion, Steve?
Yeah.
And seconded by,
I think I seconded it. Can I make a motion that we pay the bills for the month of April? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. I need a motion, I'm going to make a motion that we enter an executive session for personnel reasons. I'd like to invite the town attorney. There'll be no action taken in the executive session. Give a second to enter an executive session. Thank you. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Thank you. Folks, thank you. Have a good night.